All right, looks like we are now. How we doing? Mic check 1 2 1 2. Let me make sure I get everything set up on my end over here. Shout out to everybody coming in the room. Happy Monday to you all. Yeah, we wanted to cover a whole lot today, man. Tory Lanez released some music. R. Kelly's on a podcast. Doechii's Woman of the Year. There were a few things that we kind of left off on last week's episode. What up, poets and rhymers? Always the first in the building. Couple of things that I wanted to kind of delve into a little bit more that we spoke about last week as well. But you know what? One of the first things I want to start off talking about is I saw a picture of Ludacris and Scarface connecting at the rodeo out there in Houston. He was hanging out with yo, what up, L Books? Luda was hanging out with Scarface out there in Houston, man, and it was really cool to see because for the people who know. Scarface was president of Def Jam South when Ludacris got signed to Def Jam South, was launched off Luda's career, but we never really got much collaborative efforts between the two of those guys. And I think, with those guys being the titans that they are in hip hop in the South and what they mean to the South, I think it'd be dope to really get a collab. I know on this show and on this channel, we've spoken about Luda in many different facets, but I want to make it clear. Hold on, let me get this stuff going on my end. I want to make it clear how legendary Ludacris is and what he means to the city of Atlanta and to hip hop in general. I know Luda's impact does kind of get understated sometimes because of the type of MC he is and the direction that Atlanta hip hop took when it was after he kind of laid the pathway for many of the mainstream artists in the city to blow up nationally. Now, again, I'm not negating Outkast and Goody Mob and their influence. They are who they are. They mean so much from a ground floor levels to the city. But if we want to talk about mainstream successes nationally and internationally, Luda kind of kicked that door down in 2000 when he jumped out there with his solo career, and a lot of things actually followed that. And I think that his impact and who he is and what he means to the city of Atlanta can actually be stated a lot more than it actually does. It's one of those things when you don't sound as regional with some of the rest of the market, but we needed somebody like Luda that could kick down that door and could be palatable to other regions outside of the South to be that overall crossover success. And he definitely did that. But one of the biggest things that Luda did was the fact that he could actually get out there and rhyme. And Rap City in the Basement was definitely his playground because he was playing in the arena that he shined the most in, and that includes all MCs at that time period. Because at that time period, there wasn't a lot of MCs that would actually get in the basement and freestyle for real. Everything that you heard in the basement, for the most part, I'd say 90-95% of the bars you heard in the basement were actually on that said artist's album. But when it came to Luda, it was clear that he was freestyle. It was clear he was going off the top, and he was dope, and his style was versatile, and he could flip his style. He's shown what he's done in the battle. He was a hit maker. And yes, Ludacris definitely needs to get his flowers. Now, saying all that to say, I really wish we could get more work between, I know him and Scarface musically are kind of polar opposites. You have one guy who makes, how do I say it? He makes the core hip hop records that might not be quote unquote radio hit records, but these are records that touch your soul. And then you got one guy who might not specialize in that area, but he makes the hit records and he knows what people sonically are gravitating to from a national standpoint. I still think that Face and Ludacris, even though I don't know what it would sound like, and they've been on songs together before, but I think it'd be an interesting collaboration. I think it'd be a great time to do that too, and to really just speak to, what they mean to each other's career, what that Def Jam South phase or time period was like. What was all of that like? The stories behind it. I mean, just seeing the images of them just kicking it on the back porch out there in Texas. I'm like, man, this could have been a great interview. Like, I would love to see Ludacris interview Scarface and vice versa. But either way, I hope we get some dope music out of it. That's just me wanting to give both MCs their flowers. I think we give Face his flowers. I feel like Face is definitely in most people's top 10. And if we talk about the greatest MCs in the South all time, in my personal opinion, I think it's Face. I think Face is the greatest MC to ever come out of the South. And to be perfectly honest, if we're looking at all of the metrics, and we talk about performance, we talk about mic performance and MCing ability, hit records, and things like that. I mean, Ludacris can't be too far behind that either. I mean, like I said, they do two totally different things. But I still would love to hear both of those MCs on a record together, or even in an interview together, and I think that'd be very dope. We got Servan in the building, I believe. How we doing, everybody?
I'm good. I'm good. What's good?
Oh, I'm good, man. Nice jersey, bro.
Yes, sir.
We
Appreciate it.
stay fresh with, you know what I'm saying, with the throwbacks and the up to date stuff, man. That's a dope one. Well,
Appreciate the love, bro.
all day, man. How was your weekend?
Not long enough, G. What about you?
I feel the same way, man. Monday becoming quick.
It went
I'm
by
like, man, what
fast.
we got to talk about? No, I'm just kidding. There's a whole lot to talk about. There's always stuff to talk about. What was I gonna say, man? Um, what do you think of Ludacris and Scarface collaboration would sound like or look like?
I mean, it's happened before.
Yeah.
They did I think it was a joint that they had with Jagged Edge, Shauna, Lil Fate, and they did a
Mm-hmm.
remix and they had the video to it. And Scarface, I believe, had a verse on there. I thought I
Growing
think it
Pains.
was Growing
Yeah,
Pain, and I don't
yeah,
know if
yeah.
they changed the name for the remix. I don't know. It's like that song
That
was
was
put
on
out.
the
Hey,
DTP not
yeah.
collaboration, compilation album.
Yeah, but the original Growing Pains was on Word of Mouth. So
Right.
we've heard them on there together. But you're right. I don't feel like we did get a lot of collaborations with them too as we should. But he put them on interludes and things on like Word of Mouth. But yeah, you're right. We didn't never really get many collaborations between Luda and Scarface. And I think, it would have been a dope track. I mean, we've seen Luda
Yeah.
collab with other greats from the South and outside of the South. So I have no doubt it just would have been a dope track. I think both of them have the skill to go beyond the surface of just fun music and really talk about something conceptually. So I think it would have been dope. And
I
it's
think
never
it'd be
never too
interesting to
late. Still.
see. What's that? Say that again.
I was gonna say it's never too late. These guys are still living.
No,
I mean, I know they're not actively really doing music. I mean, we'll probably get a Scarface project before a Luda probably, but you got that Hollywood money. But yeah, I mean, it's still not out the
I
scope
think
of.
it'll be. I think right now is the perfect time because there's really no pressure. You know what I mean? You can just really go back there and have some fun and kick it and actually make some music. I just don't know what a collaboration between the two would even sound like, to be honest.
I mean, it'll
But
be
either
dope.
way, yeah, they're two of the dopest to ever come out. Period. But especially from this region, I think it'd be really really cool.
Yeah, I think that would be dope. And then even if it doesn't happen, hey, this is like he was the president of Def Jam South. When Luda was stepping in and kind of had some traction with that, and they made some good moves. They had a good team over there with DTP. Man, it's a shame that
Yeah,
we really didn't see what it materialized into because Shauna was dope. We seen what Two Chains came to be. You know, they had Field Mob at one time. I think
yeah,
Field Mob are underrated MCs in the South, in my opinion. I really
yeah,
think they can get busy when they wanted to. Uh, you know, they had Bobby V. They had the people there that had a pretty good roster, and they could have built on
you're
more,
right.
but it
They
never.
had Chingy too. It
Yeah,
was
we never
celebrating
seen
a
what it
birthday
materialized
today
in.
or yesterday. Yeah,
Yeah,
they had Chingy. Yeah, damn, yeah, Two Chains. I mean, I don't feel like Two Chains was really being utilized to the max. I mean, Player Circle technically was over there, which was Two Chains to Dollar Boy, and they had Duffel Bag Boy. It's a hit song with Lil Wayne on the hook, of course. But I feel like, man, Shauna. I feel like the ball was dropped with Shauna, man.
yeah,
Shauna was
Sean's still dope.
extremely, yeah. I think Shauna could have really, really made some waves, especially in that early 2000s when it really wasn't a lot of female MCs on the mainstream. to even compete with her. I remember during that time period, man, it was like Missy was winning all of the awards. She was like the only person winning award after award after award when it came to the BET Awards and females in hip hop. Yeah, we can't forget I-20 and Lil Fate, of course. But yeah, they had a real talented roster. I think there was a real big opportunity for Shauna in that period where, like I said, it was just Missy, Eve, and Trina making noise. And in my opinion, man, like if we just talking about spitting, I think Shauna's better than Trina, and I think that Shauna and Eve that could go, either way, depending on your preference or whatnot. But obviously, Eve has the catalog. But saying all that to say, man, Shauna was tough, man, and the fact that she was on his hit records, Ludacris's hit records, like "What's Your Fantasy" and
From the
"Stand Up"
beginning.
and stuff. It's like, dang, man, like she had a gateway to really go out here and make some noise. But
But I never
again,
understood
it's never too late.
yeah. Because I think the Battle of the Sexes album was originally supposed to be a collab album with them
Yep.
too, and we only got her vocals on the How Low Can You Go joint. Her
Mm-hmm.
vocals there, but in its background, but we never really seen that materialize to it being that collab album that it was rumored to be. And that's probably why that album is not that good to me. I wasn't really a fan of that Ludacris Battle of the Sexes album. That was really
Mm-hmm.
later in his career, but I would love to see how that would have sounded, but my thing is like they're so far behind. I mean, they're so far forward to all that. Just to see like certain people maintain certain relationships or rekindle relationships has been
Mm-hmm.
cool. I've seen Shauna and Luda on come together multiple times on IG, whether it's pictures of them being together or something. I've seen Lil Fate still being the hype man for Luda when he go and do shows. I don't really know where I-20 is these days. Chingy, he kind of said, it was his fault around the stuff with him and Luda and kind of took accountability for that. I haven't seen them really, speak, and I haven't really seen 2 Chains and Luda be on the same wavelength as of lately. But for the most part, they had a good team over there. We never got to see what it
After
materialized.
2 Chains became the 2 Chains we know now, and no longer Titty Boy, did him and Luda have any songs together?
On the compilation,
Okay.
and then on the compilation, and then I think there's some Luda albums where like Play a Circle had verses on it, but not really like them two specifically together that I remember.
Mm.
Because they had the Golden Grain. I think that was the name of the compilation and things of that. But yeah, I don't think we actually got an actual 2 Chains and Ludacris joint.
I wonder why that is. I think that'd be dope too. Really, if we're being honest, and I love Scarface and I love Luda, but as far as stylistically and how, their personalities and punchlines and their styles work together, 2 Chains and Ludacris collaboration would be crazy.
Yeah, now it's easy to say that. I don't. Here's one thing. I know people could easily be like, "Oh, yeah, it's such a squad underneath them." And we could speak to Shauna. We could speak to. They had a good team, but I don't think the Ludacris. I mean, the 2 Chains that we get today wouldn't have been what we enjoy if he didn't break away from Luda. I don't see him growing into what he's grown into as Titty Boy with
Hmm.
DTP as along with him being by himself. I think that was necessary for it to happen. Not necessarily like in a way where it had to be a riff for them to be at odds or anything, but from him to break away was the best thing for him because he has his own identity. There's not the expectations pretty much put on him. He kind of painted his own slate and how he wanted his career to go. And he didn't have to have the extra cosign or anybody setting it up for a success. He kind of like took his career in the reins of his own hands. And what we see now, I don't think we would have seen that materialize with him being under DTP, just to be honest with you.
Well, let's talk Doechii. And
Mm-hmm.
I want to make sure I'm saying the name right because when Lauren Hill brought her to stage the other day, what was that? Yesterday?
Jasmine Gardens. It was this weekend. It was a
Yeah.
2-day event, I believe.
What
One or
what does
2
she call her? Is her name Doechii or is it
days.
huh?
Doechii.
Doechii. Okay.
Yeah.
Doechii. Okay. I don't know why Doechii makes everybody so mad. But, it's a couple things going on, right? Doechii, she was named Woman of the Year for 2025. We're already in what is that? We're in March right now. She was named Woman of the Year by Billboard 2025. You know, she had an incredible night at the Grammys. She's being brought out by Lauryn Hill. Lauryn Hill really doesn't bring out a cosign anybody, if we're being perfectly honest. And it makes me think that it's clear that Doechii is the future. And shout out to you guys down there in Florida, because you know what I'm saying, Tampa represent. Um, but she's made some comments recently, and many people were like, you know, she was just joking when she said that you know, her red flags for her is a heterosexual male. And again, when you say things like that, you give people everybody gets the green light to get on the hate train. Two questions for you, and we'll go in. Do you think Doechii is the future? Doechii, excuse me, is the future. And why do the words of Doechii bother people so much?
So I can answer for that. I can answer that perfectly. The first thing is, I don't think she's the future of hip hop. I think she has a future in hip hop, and it's going on right now as we speak.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be, that was a critically acclaimed album that she won an album for. Some people may think it was premature. She didn't deserve it. She's a plant, whatever. They can have their opinions. I listened to the project. I like the project. And if they really listen to the project, she talked about her life. She talked about her newfound coming of, fame and how she was to get there. There's a lot of topics she covered in that. It's a shame that if somebody listened to the project and couldn't even just appreciate that, that's on them. Um, but I feel like for her, she has a very bright future in hip hop, and that's going to materialize in a dope way because she actually can rap and she actually does have the talent. To answer your question for number two, I don't know why people are up in arms about it. To me, it's dumb. And the reason why I'm going to say it's dumb is because let's take this out of let's just place this conversation on anything else, right?
Okay.
Just outside of the comment she made. If you want to go holler at a woman and that woman say she's not feeling you or she's not interested in you, right? And you will ask why, and she gives that or whatever list of why you're not her preference, you could take that and just be like, okay, wish you the best of luck, whatever. So why is this woman being on this platform speaking of something as a preference bother niggas that probably won't have a chance with her and meet her a day in her life? I've never seen so many men be frustrated over what a woman said of her preference. Now, all of a sudden, there's a whole list of narratives. Number two, I would like to add to this. I don't know if this was the actual intent, but because I listened to the music and that I've seen her previous interviews, there's facts here. The first fact is she's always talked about her sexual fluidity. She's always said that she's bisexual. She even stated on the last Breakfast Club interview that she dates a woman, right? She
Mm-hmm.
also stated that she has no issue dating a bisexual man. That's her preference, right? She said she wouldn't have a problem with it as long as he's upfront with her or whatever. She also states in the music and spoke about it in the interview that she dated a guy who she caught cheating that was on the down low and cheated with another man. She details that whole situation in Denial is a River as she's talking about what she's going through in that time period of her life. So when I see her make that comment, I'm not thinking that it's an indictment against men or she's going against straight men. I'm taking it as with the context of what she talks about in the music, what she talked about in the interview. I think she's talking about exactly these niggas that's out here making the statements that they're making so hard against her, and it's an indictment against men. I think she's actually talking about those type of niggas. When she say straight men, I think she's actually, because if you see DJ Miss Milan, she said her first answer was down low men, and she was like, no, but close. And then she keep on giving things, and then it's the board that says straight men. I think she's talking about guys that are overly masculine and always have to show that they're a straight man or blah, blah, blah. Sometimes some of those guys are the guys that swing on the other side. So I think that's really what she's talking about. But guys took it as an indictment against all men. You know what I'm saying? So it's like now the hate train comes, and these are from people that normally wouldn't have cared about what Doechii's saying, or probably didn't even take the chance to even listen to music or any interview she did beforehand. So it's like now you guys give an opinion when you think it's something negative, but when there was a bunch of dope stuff she did, you guys just let it, whatever. In my life, like crazy.
I think this, and I'm glad you spoke to it in that way, because yeah, we were very high on her project, from last year and even going into this year, and her performance at the Grammys was incredible. I think one of the things is people who normally haven't, or not normally, people who haven't tapped into her music yet and have that level of insight that you have for the topics and the subject matter and the content on her mixtape or album, however you want to call it.
Mhm.
They don't get that. They just took what was said at face value. And there is a notion out here that she is an industry plant. What have you to say about, that notion of industry plants, and what exactly is an industry plant?
It's a dumb conversation. It's something that nobody can even define for you. They think that anybody who reach success or get accolades very early and is being pushed in the limelight is an industry plant, because we don't have a lot of artists that are pushed in that same fashion. So when we see an artist being
Hmm.
pushed in that fashion, all of a sudden there's industry plant things, there's all that type of noise that they're making, but there are actual industry plants that were placed here that you guys didn't get that from. And see, I'm even looking at the comments, and in my defense of Doechii, you see the guys, oh, stop being a simp, stop caping for blah blah blah. Just, hey, if you guys hate women, just say that, bro. You know what I'm saying? I've never seen so many people up in arms about a comment that's made about a woman and their preference, dog. Like, at the end of the day, I keep it to the music, and if there's stuff that affects the music, I speak on it. This woman hasn't really gave you a reason to hate her. Like,
Oh,
what
man,
is the
that's
reason
just,
why you guys hate her? What has she done? If you don't like the music,
we're
cool,
gonna have
don't
some
listen
more
to it. But
talk
what has
tonight.
she done to actually hate her? I don't understand it.
Oh, I got a comment for you from Mad Max. Mad Max says, when Kodak said that about dark skinned girls, he got cooked. Now, what say you on that? Is that something different?
Because that's literally it's it's apple and oranges. We're talking about something of a black man making a colorist statement. So yeah, you're gonna get pushed back from that. But if a woman is saying what her particular preference is, and I still think there was sarcasm put in that based on knowing what the background is, so many dudes are up in arms. I think people should be able to state their preference and also state it in a way where it's not disrespectful. They're like, oh, it's a disrespect towards all heterosexual men. I didn't feel disrespected. I can care less. I don't care who she sleep with. I don't care if she wants to talk to however type of whatever men as bisexual, all that stuff, or women. I don't care, bro. Is the music good? And from what I heard from the last project, the music was good. I don't think there's an agenda she's pushing or whatever. If you guys took the time to listen to the music, she'll make statements about, oh, eating on the box while I'm watching Hulu. Why does that offend you as a man? I could care less.
Jermaine
me and
Johnson
her,
with the super chat
me
says,
and her both like
Jermaine
women.
Johnson with the
Cool. We
super
got
chat
something in common.
says, oh, we got Jermaine Johnson with the super chat. He says, men are being sensitive. If she said that gay men were a red flag, we would celebrate her answer. I like
Exactly.
authentic, unpolished, unmedia trained answers. Free with the super chat says, too much praise too early will cause backlash. She didn't get to win. I'm sorry, she didn't get to win over the people before the accolades. I do think there is something to that. I will agree with that. And that's where the machine, if you will, at this point, I think is struggling, right? You can have somebody that's bubbling that we're paying attention to. And if the machine says, yo, this person's talented, this person needs an opportunity, and everybody goes all in, then to the people who haven't been paying attention as much, it comes across as this overnight thing. But again, I mean, we've had overnight things before. I don't care what anybody says. I mean, I didn't know who Murder Mace was per se back in the day. You know what I'm saying? We down here, we didn't hear any of that stuff. Mace's meteoric rise and his blow up seemed damn near instant. You know what I'm saying? And it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, you do have somebody who comes on and presses the button, and people who are already talented to get catapulted to success. Now, I think when people talk about industry plants or whatnot, they're speaking more so about an agenda that is being pushed through, said individual. I mean, if you're a plant, quote unquote, then you were put here to put forth a certain agenda that you're going to spread throughout your influence. And I feel like that's where people are possibly coming from with statements like this, and with somebody who they might not be as familiar with, but somehow they're the belle of the ball at Paris Fashion Week. And again, when we talk about that Grammy performance, I feel like the performance itself should have showed people why she, should have been on that stage anyway, right? That takes no explanation. But saying all that to say, Leroy said something in our group chat that it was an interesting question. He's like, "Isn't every uh, artist assigned to a major label a plant?" And I'm like, you know what? I guess you're right, because if this whole concept of a plant is a real thing, then anybody that comes through their doors that they will offer a contract would be a potential plant, correct?
Well, here's the thing. I don't like the plant comments for her because I've actually seen her do moves before this newfound fame to people, to a broader range of people. First of all, she was already on the Breakfast Club back in like years ago, a couple years ago.
Yeah.
And people, there wasn't plant conversations in. She also had a record spinning on radio before all of this, which featured Kodak Black and had a music video. And she has mixtapes. This girl has been signed to TDE for about 4 or 5 years now. All right.
Hmm.
If people are really listening to at her interviews, she says the reason why the consistency and things wasn't there. She said she got into alcoholism and partying and figuring out who she is. She talks about that. The Nile is a River, that song, she actually kind of touched down on that. She touched down on it through the last project. So you're now seeing not only a full driving force of somebody who's focused solely on the music, but a label that's saying, okay, you ready? All right, let's push the button. Let's make this work for you. Now you're ready to put the work in. Like, that's not a plant to me. That's somebody who's fully invested into this shit and a label that's willing to match that investment of being into this. And you seeing it. This is not the first time I've heard Doechii. Alligator Bites Never Heals, not the first time I heard Doechii. Doechii had a record when she was singing. I had Kodak. Doechii had projects beforehand. Now, just because the general public don't know about it doesn't mean that she wasn't here before. It doesn't mean that she wasn't grinding to this. Now a real industry plant will be somebody like a Tekashi 6ix9ine, or you guys. What was the song that the white dude singing? I forgot what his name is. We never heard of him beforehand. He had a joint that was trending everywhere, and it's the biggest record and all that. We didn't know of the history. We can't even talk about any
You talk
song or
about
any
Million
project
Dollar
these guys.
Baby.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Where's the music, or
Yeah.
where's the things that we seen the grind? Like, her stuff is documented. We can go back up the old music videos. We can go back and look up old Breakfast Club interview. The stuff is there. You know what I'm saying? So how can you call somebody a plant when you could really go track back her stuff in real time and listen to the music and listen to the content and see what her journey was, as opposed to somebody who just come out of nowhere with a record that has such a resource and whatever put behind it, and we never heard of them beforehand. They just blow up overnight. So and
I mean,
just
I see
solely
people say
saying
Ice
this.
Spice is a plant, but a plant for what? What's the agenda? Now I can be objective here and say, there are people out there who feel like when it comes to non-procreative sex or relationships or whatnot, the mainstream media pushes that to Black America. Now that is something that someone could say, all right, that's an agenda-based thing. I get that. And same thing with Tekashi or whatnot, perpetuating gang violence and things like that. That could be somebody was planted in the industry to, expand upon it. We could say that about a lot of artists. But thing is, if we want to say that Ice Spice is a plant, for what exactly?
No, people just throw that out there because, like I said, how fast they blow up, how fast they receive accolades, and the second part is just, these are people that are calling people plants that don't even take the time to go listen to their projects. I ask anybody, whenever somebody brings up a narrative, oh, this person is a plant, this person is here for agenda, whatever. Did you listen to the music? No, but I see some. Nigga, our conversation is over then. You didn't even listen to the music. Because if you
Yeah.
listen to the last project, she really tells what her journey is through a lot of things and what she's been through in the last 5 or 4 years. You know what I'm saying? But everybody has their idea of what it is. Oh, she's hypersexual. She's pushing the agenda. Bro, where? Listen to the music and tell me the examples of where is this agenda being pushed. You know what I'm saying? Like, when we're talking about music, the plant conversation is fucking dumb to me, because say if you do find out somebody is a plant, what does that do? Oh, I win an argument.
Well, it discredits the artist and their
It's stupid conversation.
what it does though is it discredits the artist's ability to to blow up through skillful means, right? Somebody sent you here, you didn't do the work, you didn't, you know what I'm saying? You're really not that dope. You don't really deserve that spot. Let me say it like that. And that's what the whole plant conversation kind of becomes, where it's like, yeah, you didn't earn that spot. Somebody gave you that spot. Mad Max with the super chat says, it's because her music is trash. Glow ain't get backlash. I mean, some people have said Glow was
Glow did get backlash though. People are forgetting. Even with Yo Gotti signing her, people act like people wasn't taking an old video of her praising who's old
Dolph.
boy? Yeah, he got
Dolph.
murdered. You know, Dolph. You know what I'm saying? Rest in peace, Dolph. They were trying to do that right the day they announced that Yo Gotti signed her. People were already taking old video of her shouting out her love and praising Dolph, and whenever that beef when it was trying to do that. Like at the end of the day, like I said, there are haters in this world, bro. Because what were you looking to accomplish? What was that like? Let's not act like everybody just loved Gorilla. People were saying, calling her talentless, and oh, this stuff shouldn't make it there, or oh, they're bringing up old videos of her, you know, showing love to Dolph because she signed to Yo Gotti. Like, let's not act like this stuff don't exist.
I'm gonna say this about Doechii's comments. I mean, like I said, I praised her mixtape and her Grammy performance. Um, I do think that when we talk about, you know, media and social media at that, yeah, there are things that are hot buttons that, you know, that, you know what I'm saying, are going to get pushed, and people who are, you know, pedestrian fans or who don't listen to you like that and want to find out what the big deal is, they're going to take certain things and run with it. Now, I do agree with Jermaine Johnson. I do like unfiltered answers. I ain't got to agree with any and everything that people are saying, because you never do, right? That's just not natural. But I could see how those comments could be taken in that way. But again, somebody else said that if she said the same thing about, LGBTQ men, then it would have been no backlash. I think there's this narrative out there that um, heterosexual black men are the ones that, you know, get hated on the most. And to see, you know, a black woman out there openly saying something like that, it hits that button. Because if a heterosexual male said the same thing about, well, not heterosexual male, but yeah, let's just say heterosexual male said anything about a woman, then there would be backlash. And I think
You know
that,
what? I have a rebuttal for that.
go ahead, go ahead.
And this is the thing here. This is niggas got to get out their feelings, because for many of years, and I've said this in the previous show, hip hop has disrespected women in every aspect.
True, you're right.
In every aspect. Now you have women that are now coming out and kind of doing things that you as a man may not feel, oh, it's a great example for hip hop. It's not a great example for little girls, but what about the timeless amount of rappers that have put violence in the music, the sex in the music, the drugs in the
Right.
music? Those things are equally as much as damaging. But you guys, oh man, Future should be on the Mount Rushmore, or
You're right.
Lil Wayne should be performing at the Super Bowl, and or like think about the number of artists that people have caped for and done things that have been so much of a detriment to our young society as black men. But Doechii gets on here and she makes a comment that, like, I still think that it's, you know, being taken the wrong way, but she hasn't spoken about it. She hasn't, you know, came out and really explained it. So it leaves it up for interpretation. But just that alone gets more heat than what those guys in hip hop throughout decades of music has done, that could plague our communities of young people. And it's not the same energy. We celebrate it. We champion it. It's
Hold on.
weird.
Rigamatic with the super chat says, you seriously don't see an issue in her blanketly blaming heterosexual men for society's problems? Dude.
Where does that see? He created a whole narrative. You see what I'm saying?
Well,
That's a
I
whole
mean, to
narrative.
back off of what you said, I do agree with that. And I've always said this, when it comes to the music, people don't really care about what the message is. But if somebody were to go out there in an interview setting and say the same thing that somebody says in the music, it would be a problem. Like if Juvenile went out there and was like, girl, you look good, won't you back that ass up? You're a fine motherfucker, won't you back? And like in an interview setting, people would be like, yo, who is this guy? It's disrespectful. But when you hear it on a record, for whatever reason, all of those things go away. To your point, when, you know, there's so many detrimental things that have been said in the music. And we just spoke about it when we did
Bro.
that college dropout breakdown. And we were talking about Jesus Walks. And Ye said, a rapper could rap about anything except for Jesus. And that's true and wild when you think about it.
Think about
And like
two
you said,
albums that we just said were one of the greatest in hip hop. We just talked previously about All Eyes on Me, and we talked about what
mm-hmm,
else? Get Rich or Die Trying, right?
uh-huh.
That was great positive music for our youth. That was, oh man, we can learn so much from that. It taught us everything that was positive. It made me want to be a better person and be a law-abiding citizen of society, man. It really pushed me to do the best in society.
I think everybody has their story and their struggle and their pain, and they should be able to express that freely, like you said. Just like Pac was able to express his anger on, the Machiavelli album. I mean, it's an angry album from Pac, right? I don't really love that album because of that, but that's just me personally. But people love the
Because it was
Machiavelli
good music, but let's not act
album.
like the content isn't just as damaging. At least her content, I haven't seen anything that could be damaging. This is a woman that's explaining her experiences in her life and what she went to and how she dealt with fame, how she dealt with her journeys in music. I don't see anything that has been damaging so far to why these guys are creating narratives and saying that this woman made a comment that she hasn't spoken on the explanation of, and there's been so many narratives thrown out. There's been
Yeah,
so much hate that's came from that. And it's just like, it's ridiculous to me because you guys are contradictions. And this is not defending Doechii, it's really defending against ignorant niggas. Because at the end of the day, I've never seen so much out, like anything that a woman celebrates, whether it was Meg shaking her ass, niggas complain. Whether it was Ice Spice shaking her ass, niggas complain.
where do you
But we
think
have
this
somebody
comes
that can
from?
do both. We have somebody that can do both, that can create the music and shake the ass occasionally. And niggas are still gonna complain. At this point, dog, like she doesn't make music for y'all, bro. Let's be honest with you. You guys are not her sole demographic. But if you dope, people will listen. I listen to what's dope. But to hear so many like niggas complain about women's stuff, bro. I get why sometimes women be like, stay out of women problems. Because sometimes there's things that I could say that are ridiculous. I see women defend and claiming that's feminism, stuff like that. But this, like, I just don't understand where the hate's coming from with her. Because if that's that comment, you guys are mad about that. That's not what I want to consume my life with being mad at. I seen that and was like, okay, whatever. I don't care. Like, I've
Brought
never
up
seen
something.
niggas up
You brought
bars
up
and
something that's
pieces of
interesting,
stuff.
though.
Like, this is crazy.
You brought up something that's interesting. Not to interrupt you, but yeah, you have people complaining about Megan. And I've always said this on this platform, and even before we started this platform, when it came to having ghostwriters, right? And I remember when Drake was going through all of that with the ghostwriters and whatnot. And it seems like when it comes to women in hip hop, it's almost like this whole notion that we expect a woman to have a ghostwriter. And if a guy has it, then they're fraudulent. And it's like, where does this whole thing come from? Like, I remember when people was talking about um what's his name? Safari was writing for Nicki. And I'm like, why disrespect Nicki like that? Like, I've heard Safari rhyme and I've heard Nicki rhyme. There's no way this man's writing for her. You know what I'm saying? And it's like you always have to attach something to, that female MC to almost kind of like, you know, discredit it. You know what I mean? And I mean, I think we were talking, and you said that somebody was writing for Lauren or whatever. I don't believe that, but I mean, I know what you mean. You were talking about on the solo album or whatever with
Mm-hmm.
the singing song, the R&B songs. But as far as
Miseducation.
raps go, I don't think we've seen that. But saying all that to say, even if somebody was writing for Lauren or whatever, and we know that Big was writing for Kim, and we've never just thrown Kim out and just discredited her as an overall MC. You know what I'm saying? But when it comes to finding one reference track from Drake, he's not this, that, and the third.
People
And
make excuses for who they like, man. I see people that still defending Kanye,
yeah,
but Doechii
I'm a
comment.
Kanye
You
fan, but
guys do
I
that.
can't. I'm a Kanye fan. I can't defend the stuff that I'm seeing.
But what
And I
Doechii
mean,
said is so bad about her personal preference. Like I said, that statement could have totally been taken wrong by these niggas and they think pieces. She probably said that shit because she knew it was gonna get these niggas outraged. Talking about niggas that didn't listen to music, don't take time to listen or care about the music, but just because she made that comment, here comes all you niggas. She talking to y'all, not me. You know what I'm saying? Me as a straight man, I'm not uncomfortable with what she said. That's her preference. Why does that bother you so much? I'm not getting online at my 34 years of age and writing a think piece or writing negative comments and posts and stuff. I'm not doing that, bro. I have other things to do with my day than be fake outraged about this. You know what I'm
mm,
saying? Like, oh, it's an indictment against heterosexual men. She's leading the charge and this LGBTQ. Like, I was like, bro, she just happens to be an artist that was like open about her sexuality. But if you listen to the music, it's not. Like, come on. That's why I say I always ask you guys, did you listen to the music? You know what I'm
I think
saying?
where we're at in hip hop right now. Thumbs up in the chat, everybody. We're about to talk about Biggie and his legacy as well in a second. I think where we're at in hip hop right now, where so many lines have been blurred in just entertainment and culturally, where it was it was taboo to be out the closet and be a full-fledged MC back in a certain time period, and we were just used to women rapping about having men and men rapping about having women. And when you have people who come in and disrupt that common notion, then they become the enemy. You know what I'm saying? And she's just telling her story just like anybody else would. And regardless of, let's just say hypothetically, the industry does have an agenda and they like what she's saying and they're getting behind it because that's who she genuinely is. That's not her problem. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's just doing what she does. And just like if somebody wanted to sign an artist from the South and you just happen to be from the South, and you know what I'm saying, and they want to put money behind somebody from the South, that's not your problem. Take the opportunity, right?
I mean, another thing is there's so many artists that are of no talent, can't perform, can't make the music. We've seen them come and go. We've seen them be propped up in instant success, and they can't hold it. This woman
Yeah,
has a talent. She's put it in the music. Whether you don't like it, that's your personal choice. You don't have to listen to it. But
yeah.
like, let's get down to it. And this is a bigger problem, bro, because this goes outside of just Doechii's statement. The guys see a threat for everything besides the stuff that are real threats to them. And I don't get it. You could literally have a system that's put in place to work against you. You could literally have male artists. Like, if for me, here's one thing. For example, we have women. Oh, what she said is irresponsible. Girls look up to her. Little girls look up to her. Man, I see more men influenced by stuff that these male rappers are doing, and I don't see you guys caping for it that hard. Oh my God, Future, people look up to you. I can't believe that you're having all these women with all these kids, and you're endorsing lean drinking and drugs use, and oh my God, like I don't see that being the case
You're
for
right.
all them. Once you get on there and do that, oh my God, she's supposed to be. They place standards on stuff they don't even put on their own male artists, and that's why I say hip hop and the fans for some part are walking contradictions. Hip hop is a walking contradictions. Those are statements and things that they don't even put on their own artists that have supplemented. For every of your favorite artists that some of these people could name, tell me how they have been great pillars for the youth in their messaging and their music.
I got to give you credit, man. You making some great
I mean,
points, man. We've
it's
we've
just
uh we've broken down how hip hop can feed the prison industrial complex, and we know this. You know what I'm saying? We know the the whole cycle, if you will, and who's funding this and who's saying this and that, and we don't put that same onus at this level on all of our male counterparts who are helping those agendas as well. So I'll give you credit. I mean, that's a very great point. And I know we keep throwing Future under the bus, but it's not just Future. It's a whole
people. We
uh,
have a lot of people that do things that doesn't represent our culture well, or don't represent. If we're so concerned with what role models look like in hip hop, or what's good for the community, or what's good for the youth, then there's a lot of music y'all wouldn't let cycle. There's a lot of things y'all won't defend. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's kind of wild to me that you guys pick and choose what y'all give a damn about. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
I mean, I agree. I mean, even when we talk about, like, the senseless violence, and we talk about, drill music, or even before that, what the media would call gangster rap. Because I don't really like using those terms, because I know these are industry made up terms and publications made up these terms. But the truth of the matter is, there was a lot of tumultuous energy that was perpetrated through the music and through projects and all of that, that led to the early demise of Biggie and Pac as well, regardless of what believe as far as what happened to Pac specifically. But again, that energy is stuff that led to those things. I always say this, man, and people in the chat can disagree with me or whatever. And this ain't beating up on New York. I know we really get New York heavy when we talk the Tupac and Biggie thing. I wish Biggie would have handled what Pac's murder differently. I think that going out there dissing a dead man or throwing subliminals at a dead man on your project coming up, going out west, doing that freestyle on Sway where it was clear you were talking about him. And just even in that interview on Rap City with Joe Claire, he didn't really seem too, I don't want to say too hurt that he was gone, but I think that when Joe Claire asked him that about, Pac being gone and, what happened, I think Big could have gave a better answer. Again, he was young and all of that, but like you said, I think that motif of trying to keep a certain energy and not trying to be vulnerable in that state and trying to, still be the big man and all that led to what eventually, happened to him. I think that if he would have handled that differently, he might still be here. I don't know. But
No,
Jermaine, it came across very brave. It came across very arrogant and almost to some people who are already heightened a spit in the face. You know what I mean? Jermaine Johnson with the super chat says, "We are so lost. Our culture celebrates sexy reds, words, and imagery, but is hypercritical of Doechii. Mission accomplished."
I think people just want to pick whatever day it is and whatever they want to be outraged about and forget about it in the next day and find something else to be outraged about. These people are not taking the time to listen to the music but have so many opinions about it. These people are not taking the time to go look at the interviews. Have so much about it. I've never heard so many people give opinions about stuff and don't listen to stuff. And I think that's what the world consists of now. People will just see a talking point and look at a clip, and now everybody are arguing in comments and being at their necks and think pieces and not looking at the holistic view of everything. A lot of people that I know who are making these comments are people I could imagine never went and listened to the music, never went and listened to the past
I
music.
see Super. My bad. I want to say I see Super in the chat. He said that we're being blind to the Doechii agenda. I would ask
Yeah,
Super,
there's a grand
what
conspiracy.
is, what is the agenda specifically? I know he say they're gonna speak on it on Thursday's show too, so it'd be like a two-parter. So put in the chat what the agenda is, and I guess we could speak to that. I didn't mean to interrupt your thought, but I was gonna ask about this upcoming album that she has dropping, because the everything that she's getting, props for, the alligator bites, that's a mixtape. So her debut is on the way, and I don't think that we've seen a build up for a debut like this in hip hop for a talent like this in a very long time. I think it's going to be a huge
I really do.
opportunity to get everybody who wasn't listening before. They're going to listen now. Even with this controversy right here, I think that she did the right thing by not immediately responding to this, because when the album drops or when the album is on its way, I would imagine she's going to be doing a lot of media and a lot of big media and going to be answering some of these questions in depth. And I believe that the project will probably speak to why she's getting these opportunities. This is going to be a huge rollout and possibly album of the year. And that's why I'm like, she could possibly be the immediate future of hip hop.
I think she's bringing something different. There, you could see where she draws inspiration from other artists. But like I said, I've never seen, like, I'm looking at these comments. I'm even be told I'm emotional. Hey, bro, I'm in my rebuttal, and I'm like, bro, I'm real calm. I've been chill this whole time. You guys seem like the emotional ones. You guys are arguing in comments and saying you hate her and she's pushing the agenda and everything. Dog, that's not what I'm doing with my day. That's not. I'm not gonna be mad about. Oh, like, come on, man. This is a woman, bro. This is a woman, man. I got bigger battles to fight, bro, and this is not one of them. G, it's just like either you like the music, you don't. You don't like it, okay, move along. There's a lot of music out there that you guys could speak to. I mean, we could talk about the mainstream push of music, but I also know that you have more than ever the best diversity put into a place where you can go and listen to the music you want to listen to. For example, Apple, Spotify, Tidal. There's literally playlists of new artist music. There's literally genres of playlists from new and old. You could literally virtually go listen to whatever you want to go listen to. We don't have to be dependent on a radio that's driving what we want to listen to. You could literally cipher what you want to go through your ears. And if you are choosing to go listen to trash, that is that's you, bro. That's your choice. That's literally your choice. I don't let shit that I don't like filter to my ears. I give stuff a fair listen. If I don't like it, I won't go back to it. If I like it, I continue listen to it. Niggas just complaining, bro. Like, what we talking about, G? Like, what we talking about, man? Like, I've never seen so many niggas like just be so sensitive about a woman, dog. Like, what we talking about? Keep it player, bro. These are the type
Well,
of niggas that argue with women when women tell them no.
I think what we got going on right now,
What
and
we
we can
talking
move
about?
on to the next thing. And shoot, I would love to be a part of the super conversation too. You said you about to kick her back in on Thursday, but anyway,
Mhm.
I think what we got going on here is kind of like that call and response thing in hip hop that we've always had, where it's like, when TLC put out No Scrubs, you had, Sporty Thieves putting out No Pigeons. I think that when, like you said, when men are out here, flossing their shit, saying their shit, say we cool with it because, we relate to that to a certain level, whether it's good or bad. But when a woman's coming out, saying her shit, we're okay with that. But when a woman who really ain't into men at all out here saying that shit, that's something different that hip hop hadn't experienced. And I think that this is
Well, see,
the
that's the forwarding
reaction.
narrative. She
You know
never
what I'm
said
saying?
she was into men at all. She said she's verbally have said that she's bisexual and she's currently dating a woman. Because
Hey,
if she didn't date men at all, she was in a relationship with the man that she spoke about in Denials of River and talked about how she found out he was cheating on her with a man.
but he wasn't a heterosexual male. So I think that
Exactly.
the whole notion is that there is
So,
a battle between a said community and heterosexual
and I
men.
don't think that's the case at all. And I think that's further explains her comment on there with her making that is because this guy was indeed a down low man who she said cheated on her, right? What does most down low men do? They pose as more so the straight man and act overly masculine or whatnot and be in there doing the bending or bending for another dude. And those are the dudes that she's talking about. When she says a straight man, I don't think that's really speaking to us as the real straight man. I think she's talking to the guys that are overly flexing the masculinity
I
to try
got
to prove something, and that's what she's talking about. And like I
okay.
said, man, I could be totally wrong. This is just how I interpret it. And like I said, I've never seen so many guys up in arms for this, man. Like either you like it or you don't, man. But all these narratives that's being created off stuff that this woman haven't even said, it's ridiculous, bro. These niggas be really like, I just don't understand, bro. Like
I
I
guess
don't
we,
get it, man.
I guess we got to, I guess we got to stay tuned. And I think that we're about to experience one of the biggest rollouts that we've experienced in a long time for a new artist. She is Woman of the Year already in March from Billboard. I didn't even know they gave out the Woman of the Year award already. And this is 2025. And congratulations to her. She's having an incredible couple of months. I think that it's going to translate over through the rest of the year for sure. And yeah, we just got to stay tuned and see how this whole thing materializes. I do believe that she's going to do a larger interview and address some of these narratives and probably break it down even more. You could be on point, and it could be opposite of what you're saying.
totally wrong.
Shout out
That's
to
all right.
DJ Miss Milan too, man. I was just listening to one of her
Yeah,
mixes the other day on the Estelle show, Apple Music.
she's grinded. She's
Yeah, she's a
definitely grinded. I'm
dope
familiar
DJ.
with her.
For sure. That was my first time actually hearing her, and I just randomly came across one of her mixes a couple of weeks back. I was like, yeah, she's pretty dope. And then I seen her interviewing Doechii. So yeah. All right.
I
All
want
right.
to address something because I want to let y'all know. I want to let y'all know, and I'm gonna get right to the comments. You guys could joke, you guys could play, but I'm not the dude to play those games with. And I'm not gonna go back and forth with people in comments. I don't argue with y'all in comments. If y'all want to test me at any point in time, it could be a time for that. If y'all really are up for that. But I'm not the guy to go for that. Ain't nothing sweet over here. Ain't nothing ever been to a point where you think that is. So if y'all, think y'all want to welcome somebody into that room, and if you want to test me on that, we can go see about that. Other than
Well,
that, let's keep it let's
people
keep
are
it
go
P.
pro. People are go pro. I
Let's keep it
appreciate
P.
your ability to keep this subject very objective. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people don't even want to go down this rabbit hole, for lack of a better term, because
I mean,
it
it's,
comes
it's
across
ignorant,
like,
and this
yeah,
shows that it's ignorance. You know what I'm saying? Like this shows is ignorance. These are the people that I feel like he's probably talking to an extent. You know what I'm saying? This is ignorance. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm a dude that I see things for what it is. You know what I'm saying? I also see a holistic view of things, and I've witnessed that's things that me being old enough to just recognize what's good and what's bad, or just noticing how people react to stuff. We have more ignorance in this world than intelligence. And that's what is creating our society to be the way it is because of that. And I also see how women are treated. I was raised by women. I have a bunch of female friends. I have a bunch of women I've dated. And I have the experience under my belt to just know that some of these men are lighting the ass, bro. Some of these niggas is out here behaving like women, and to the extent of the over emotional comments, taking the time out to do these things. I've never seen so many dudes lack the tact as a man and how we go about things as a man. We have one-on-one conversations, you and I. If we have issues, then we'll discuss one-on-one. I don't get in comments. I don't do the back and forths. I don't do beefs. If there's a real beef, I know what beef looks like. So all this stuff is things I can't entertain, dog. But what I can do is stand up for what's right and what's wrong. And I won't let no man be disrespected in front of me that is my people just as much as I wouldn't let a woman. And so from what I'm seeing, there's a lot of niggas out here that go against their own people in a manner they won't go against those others. I don't see this type of energy that they're welcoming to Doechii being welcome to others. That's what I'm saying. We pick and choose who we want to take our battles with, and they're not taking their battles with the right people. And
I think
honestly,
overall, and
it's
I'm
sad.
with you. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I agree. And I think that at the end of the day, when we look at artists that are coming up like Doechii, you know what I'm saying, and people who are on top of the world like Kendrick right now, yes, we can get critical and, get on our platforms and say what we say, but let's keep it to the music, because at the end of the day, and I think that everybody else does have a responsibility to do this as well. Like, we do have to have some level of unity, and we don't all have to agree, but we're definitely stronger together, and that doesn't matter like what your preference and all that stuff, what your background is on that. But yeah, we are stronger together. All that
Yeah, yeah. I
fighting,
don't.
if you will, like you said, you don't
Yeah,
see
yeah.
other groups
I
doing
don't do
all that
fuck shit. I don't do
infighting.
fuck nigga shit. I don't do pussy shit. At the end of the day, I'm still from Duval. Let's get that right. You know what I'm
Yeah, yeah.
saying? Keep it moving though.
Well, Biggie. Oh man, Biggie was murdered 28 years ago yesterday. March 9th was 28 years ago. It's insane. Like, I remember the morning, it was a Sunday morning. Parents were at church. I woke up and turned on my TV, MTV, and they were talking about what happened. And it's like, I don't know, it was like right after the Pac thing or months after that. It didn't seem as foreign, but it's like you couldn't believe it still. Somebody compared it to a 9/11 when like the second tower fell. It's like you understood like it was a real problem. It wasn't just a one-off situation. Obviously not comparing it to 9/11, but you know what I mean. Like, as far as like that second domino falling, and hip hop changed forever that day. Biggie, and I would like to get your viewpoint on this too, and how your generation sees Biggie, because I always saw Biggie as a transformative figure, him and Pop. But Biggie was a transformative figure as far as New York hip hop getting on the radio and being palatable to R&B formats. And Puffy had a lot to do with that too, with the fact that he was able to get somebody who just had this raw talent and Biggie had the talent to be able to adjust to what Puff was doing and everything Puff was throwing him. But he saw that this guy could actually get on these R&B records and make them hip hop records. And to me, Puffy and Big, that's their impact moving forward on the game and everything that we saw after those guys. Now, Pac was very versatile as well, and I think they took pieces of people like Pac and people like Dre in their formats and infused them with what they did well. But to me, when I look at Big and Puff and that collaboration, these guys were able to make very lyrical music that would be palatable to radio and utilize R&B licks, R&B samples, and make them very, very much hip hop. And I feel like that's something that continued on even after Biggie was gone.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because I feel like on Life After Death, we were just starting to see like him taking the music to another place, such as versatility, such as
Yeah,
how he's formulating songs versus Ready to Die. When you look at Ready to Die and you look at Life After Death, you can see the growth in between those two albums.
yeah,
So much. You know what I'm saying? And we were robbed of seeing like what's next for him. I know, even before Pac passed, Pac still had a good amount of music that he put out that we could rate on. And even the post death music that, some of it was poorly produced, some of it was good from how they put it together. But as far as for like Biggie, man, we besides the Biggie duets and I think a couple, used verses on probably like on a Puff album or things of that nature, we never really got to see what that next step of Biggie was going to look of, obviously because he was murdered. So
yeah.
I mean, it's unfortunate, man. When I look at that Life After Death track list and look at the collabs and look at the type of songs he was doing, man, it's just only a what if to think about what's the next step or what was the next thing he was gonna do. Even when it comes to Junior Mafia, what was next for like C's or Kim and all of that. Kim had more of a career afterwards than anybody else that was around the Junior Mafia stuff. But man, we were robbed so much of like seeing what this could be for him. You know?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like, him and Jimi Hendrix. And there's a few other big what ifs. I feel like with Pac, we kind of knew what we were going to get for Pac because we got a lot of material from him. Like you said, there was a lot of posthumous material as well. But when it came to Biggie, after he was murdered, that was pretty much it. You know what I'm saying? And this is right before we get producers like Timbaland really jumping into the hip hop lane and the Neptunes emerging, Just Blaze, Kanye. I really would have been interested to hear how Big would have sounded over some of these other producers and where Big was actually about to take his sound because he pretty much showed on Life After Death that he could do anything. Now, I don't know if things were going to get shinier or if they were going to keep that balance going. I saw somebody in the chat said that the Big do R&B records better than LL. In my estimation, yes. I mean, if I'm being completely honest, I mean, I think that LL's career, stands on its own and speaks volumes. But if you want to talk about spitting quality, quotable verses over these radio friendly R&B tracks, man, look at One More Chance remix, man. Like he is spitting on there. Like
Um,
it's not even like, oh, he toned it down for radio. Like that first verse on the One More Chance remix, that's quotable material. He didn't
yeah.
even sound like he was, you can kind of tell when our favorite rappers are making something for the radio. With him, man, it was like he was on 10 no matter what kind of record it was.
So I have to agree just with that statement. I do agree that he did dope R&B joints, but I don't know if he did that better than LL because we could literally like go through a career amount of joints of R&B sounding records with LL versus these far and few ones that we got off, these two albums from Biggie or his collaborations with 112 or Total or something like that. I
Can you
mean,
deny with R. Kelly? I
Yeah,
mean,
so
Big
but
on
compared
these
to
tracks.
LL, we could literally give a whole career length of music of what LL did into that lane. At the end of the day, if it wasn't for LL, a lot of these artists, including Biggie himself, wouldn't be able to make these tracks that's so palatable on the R&B side and hip hop. LL
Yeah,
made it possible for
blueprint
these
for sure.
rappers to even have records for ladies.
Yeah, LL's the blueprint for that. I mean, I Need Love showed hip hop a lot of things. It showed
Another
that this
statement,
could actually work.
another statement. I don't even want to just interrupt you here. I don't
Oh, go
think
ahead.
Biggie made better. I don't think Biggie made better R&B joints than Pac.
I thought about that.
He made dope joints. Now, don't get it. Like I don't. I
It's
hate, I
two
hate
different
to
approaches.
contrast. It
What
seems like
R and B joints
we're
you talking about with Pop? What R and B joints you talking about with Pop?
Are You Still Down with John B? Um, Do for Love. There's so many. Wonder Why. Well, Wonder Why He Call You Bitch is not really like but not all Biggie songs were love joints for women. They're not love joints for women.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, but they have R&B hooks. I feel like what Pac was able to do kind of inspired Biggie to kind of move in that way a little bit too, because Pac was making music for a little bit of everybody, and he knew how to channel talking to the women, whether it's gonna be on Keep Your Head Up or Brenda's Got a Baby or Dear Mama, and then you go into these other records such as Are You Still Down, or there's so many pockets that Pac was in that area of utilizing singers or whatnot, that I don't feel that we got to fully see of Big. We just seen that, hey, he was featured on these joints. He had a couple remixes like that, but that wasn't really his bag. It was a bag that he was able to dip into, but it wasn't like, this was put in front of him. This is Pop giving you the formula of taking these 80s sounding records and putting you on it and making it more friendlier for this. If there wasn't an introduction of that from Diddy, we would have got a lot of more hardcore rapping from Big. It wasn't
I
like it was a big idea to do this.
I agree.
So
I agree. I think Big's versatility, really the fact that Diddy was able to identify Big's versatility, and again, I think that makes it even more incredible that that wasn't even a natural thing for Big to do, but he was able to adjust to what Puff was doing. Just speaks to his just natural raw talent. Now you're speaking on two different things. I think obviously, Pac was
in
a
a
more
sense,
vulnerable writer, right? He was
yeah.
able to express those things and talk to the ladies in that way. I don't expect Big. I never, I don't think Big got to that point in his career where
I
he was
give
actually
credit
talking
to
to the ladies. But I do think that Big was um sonically, taking on R&B sounding records. Like if we talk about Sky's the Limit, like he's not talking to the ladies or anything, but that's a jazz record. You know what I'm saying? Like as far as like what he sounded great on sonically and how he was able to take R&B sounding records and still keep that hardcore edge. Yeah, he's not going to compete with Pac when it comes to being vulnerable and speaking to women in the way like, are you still down and stuff like that. And even Dear Mama, like Big didn't have that chamber at yeah, all the way up into his demise. But I do think that he had something kind of like a jazz musician where it was like he sounded incredible over everything. Ron Bay in the building. Shout out to Ron Bay here. He says Big also signed Cam, Charlie Baltimore, and a lot would
Yeah,
have been different.
man. Yeah, he
You know
didn't.
what? That's an interesting conversation. How does
Mhm.
Big's career look if this doesn't happen? And how does that pan out for Cam, Charlie Baltimore, Kim, the commission with Jay? Let me get this spam. And I mean, how does that pan out if these things don't happen?
Well,
Big what if?
both of these guys were making transitions to exec, to be execs. I would see. We had Pac, he had big ambitions on what he wanted to do with the Outlaws. He was talking Death Row East. He was talking about, a
Mm.
couple artists he wanted to sign. And then you had Big that was doing it in real time, with what he was setting up with Junior Mafia. And then, um, you know, what's to come out of that. And then, Cam, he eventually ended up signing the Unentertainment. And, that was, from what could have happened with him and Big. That's what happened post Big. And then, Charlie Baltimore, we seen she went on with Irv and whatnot. So you see the degrees of separation. But man, it was just unfortunate that we didn't get to see what they were gonna do behind the scenes more. We got to see Big a little bit because he was pinning a lot of stuff. He was kind of like creating these characters for these people and these lanes for these people more so than Pac. He just kind of put these dudes on and just was like, hey, you guys are my soldiers. Hey, this is how we going at it. So they had two different approaches, but we still never got to see what that could evolve to. So it's kind of unfortunate. But one thing I do want to give Big credit for, because I hate like when we compare, because sometimes to make a point for one, it's like we're kind of like shitting on the other, and I don't want this to be a thing that I'm shitting on Big and his ability for R&B raps. I just feel like Pac's pen was more compelling throughout his years of his time span of rap music, and how
Yeah.
he was able to not only send music that was touching to women, but also stuff that could have been disparaging to women as well over these same R&B motivated tracks. As Big, we were
Providing
like,
a balance.
yeah, instead of with Big, it was like we're impressed by Big's flow. Like when we hear that One More Chance remix, it was the flow, it was the way he delivered. And then there's a vast difference in imagery of these guys. Big wasn't like, he made people believe he was a set symbol. This guy said black and ugly as ever. However, you compare Pac to Big, ladies love Pac. You know what I'm saying? But Big, he made it to be cool to be this way. He made it to where he was still a player. He had these women and he wasn't a looker to people, but the way he was spitting this and the imagery or whatever, it made it cool. And that's a pocket that I say is dope for Big. He made people
Very
believe it.
confident. I
Yeah, the
think he's
confidence,
confident in his
the
abilities as
the
well.
swag was just oozing out this nigga's pores. Like it was something round Big that he was able to capture. Like these guys both had intangible things that really, when we make these comparisons, who's bigger, better, Pac or Big, you can't really say which one was best, because these guys all had certain things that another one didn't have. And it's unfortunate we were robbed of both. But I just feel like Pac's pen, um, as far as the lanes he was willing to go and the emotion he was able to pierce with his music, versus a Big, in a way, is kind of what sets these two apart. In contrast was their approach to stuff. And I feel like Big got you by the flow. He got you by being able to spit in his way with words and stuff like that. But Pac captured the heart. So I
Yeah,
think that
and
was
I think Pac was, just very wise beyond his years. So he grew up very fast, and he had thoughts and were able to articulate certain thoughts and positions that most 22, 23-year-olds, wouldn't. I don't know if Big would have ever grown into some of those things. But like you said, Big had the flow. He had just the natural ability to rhyme and to sound great over damn near anything. But where he lacked was this level of maturity that Pocket already had. And we don't know. And I think for me, that is one of the biggest questions when it comes to Big. Would he have grown into somebody who stood on, certain things and was able to articulate that through his music? Because when I hear Sky's the Limit specifically, when I hear that song, I hear growth. I hear this is way different than the guy that was on Give Me the Loot. And it's and not just growth stylistically, just some of the things that he's saying, his positions, his perspectives. And this is at 24, 25 years old. I don't think he even made it to 25 because he turns 25 in May. So yeah. This is at 24 years old. And so I think the biggest what if for Big is, what would he have grown into content wise? I think with Pac, for me, I would speculate that I believe Pac would have done more film. I think that just based on like what you said earlier about Ludacris, man. Like, I mean, those Hollywood checks he probably wouldn't have been able to, turn down. I'm not saying that he would have quit music altogether, but I do think that the way that film was blowing up for hip hop artists at, in the late 90s, early 2000s, I think that he wouldn't have been able to kind of, turn down some of those opportunities that Hollywood would have been able to give him. Now, as far as Big goes, I think the music would have kept going. I know he always talked about retiring at 30, and he was really consumed with being the king of New York and holding down that title. And I think he would have worked to keep that title going. And I think that he really would have kept forging on musically, I don't know if that would have been with or without Diddy. That's the big question mark when it came to Biggie and what his career looked like moving forward. Go ahead.
I said I think he could have did it without Diddy at a certain extent, because these guys they were special. Like you mentioned their age, when you think about yourself at that age, we're still figuring stuff out of the ways of this world
Yeah.
and how to maneuver through this world or whatever. These were guys that not only were they artists, they were trying to figure that out beyond the music as well. You had Pac,
Yeah.
bunch of legal trouble things. We didn't even get to see what that was going to turn into with that situation. Then you have Big that equally had a lot of stuff going on in his life as well that we only get to hear about with people that was around on podcasts and stuff like that now. So it
Yeah.
seems like both of them were at points where they're still growing and still looking back and things, and the fact that they're at that age and still were reflecting on their past stuff in the way that they did.
Yeah.
I mean, Big's first album was of reflection, man. That was a
Yeah.
street tale. Like Ready to Die was reflection.
It
Um,
showed
we've
you how
seen
fast people grew up in that era or had to
Yeah,
grow up.
man, just the topics that Pop talked about. There's an array of topics he talked about. Whether you could say they were good or bad, there was a lot of ground that he covered in his time of being alive that most of us at that age would not be able to see in those same eyes. He was very advanced, very, his approach was of experience and of how he's seen the world and some of his views he had then. We didn't even get to see if some of that stuff was going to change. We didn't even see
Yeah.
because the way I look at the world at 23, 24 is not the same way I look at the world at 34.
Exactly.
So
Yeah. That's the thing we don't talk about when it comes to Pac, and people people pass away so young or murdered so young, and these guys situations, like we don't even think, okay, would any of Pac's positions have changed at 30? You know what I'm saying? Or been modified, or would he have been like, you know what, some of that stuff that I was thinking back then, I have changed my stance on that. He didn't have the ability or the chance to actually change those stances. And yeah, that's really sad. And those are the what ifs. Now, to your point about with Diddy and without Diddy, to me, it's kind of like, I know I bring up Michael Jackson in every episode, it feels like, but you can tell the difference between. I love the Jackson's album Triumph, right? It's right between Off the Wall and Thriller. You could tell the difference between the stuff that's on Off the Wall, produced by, Quincy Jones, Rod Temperton, and the stuff that's on Triumph. It's good still, but it's not that stuff. That's how I felt about, let's just say, Junior Mafia stuff, which was without Diddy, and then the Life After Death stuff, right? Conspiracy Theory, the Junior Mafia album, where Get Money is a hit. Get Money is out of here. I love Get Money, but there you could tell the difference between Get Money, Players Anthem, and the stuff that's on Life After Death. You know what I mean? And I agree with you. He could cruise with the stuff that was on Conspiracy Theory, but I will say I feel like Diddy and his production choices and his vision gave Big a leg up in that department, because to me, I feel like Pac's production was probably his only Achilles heel in relation to, his counterparts that were, of that iconic status, in my personal opinion. And that's why I'm so high on not Life After Death, All Eyes on Me, because that was a production tour de force.
Well, here's the dope thing about Pac, and that's why I say in defense of him, Pac was willing to work with whoever had music
Yeah.
that he could do. They always talk about the whack room or whatever they call it at Death Row. And there was like a room where you had the hottest producers giving whatever, and you had the whack room where it was whatever. There's producers that say, hey, Pac gave me a chance. He worked with a lot of people, and it's like I said, he could be in the studio and he's just writing, all right, play that song, all right, next one. Not even going back. That's how they said his work ethic was. He was a guy that was just ready to go over whatever, and he really tested others' work ethic, because others, they might do a track, smoke, go party, be done with the studio for the rest of the day. Pac was locked in there. All right, we done with that one. All right, let's go on to the next one. Like, he was that type of guy. You know what I'm saying? For Big, I think the issue is not just the production. I think it was the marketing aspect of it, and that's where Puff had to come into play. Because you have this guy who's of the streets and he has these street tales, but how can we make it palatable? And I think by the time Life After Death rolled around, I think Big was already kind of figuring out a way how to make that palatable music, because we seen it in certain efforts with other artists that he was writing for. Like he gave the persona to Kim and C's and all of them. Now C's Leo album wasn't bad, but it didn't have the same push of what a Biggie joint would have had, you know? So it's like how I'm looking at it, it was like that was the great thing for Big, was just the marketing and making his music digestible where it didn't seem so harsh. You know, the
You know,
content's still
now
there,
that
the
you
sound is
mentioned,
what made it digestible.
now that you mentioned that, not to interrupt you, it's just so impressive the fact that this man was not only writing for himself, but he was writing for Puff sometimes, writing for Kim,
Yeah.
writing for the whole Junior Mafia. And he was willing to take on all of these things and, put all of that on his plate. Like, yeah, I can sign my homies over here. I'll do all the writing. Like, that's a lot of writing, man. Like, and then he went out there and made a double disc. They had some dope writers over there in Bad Boy, man. I heard Mace is announcing that he's dropping the album on Puffy's trial date. I will say this, man. Mace doesn't get enough credit for picking up the slack when Big was murdered. Now
I
I'll
agree.
say, um, Big died on March 9th. I feel like Life After Death came out at the end of the month, so at the end of March, and then right around that corner, you had Puff dropping "No Way Out," which is a classic as well, and then you got Mace, and Mace kept Bad Boy afloat. After the whole Puff solo stuff died down, and then Mace came through. Puffy and Mace is kind of like a duo, and not that we, had moved on from Big in any kind of way, but the way that when Pac, was murdered, Death Row kind of was just done. We were waiting on the Dogfather, and Snoop dropped the Dogfather, and then, he left, and that was, and Death Row was pretty much done. Got to give Bad Boy credit. After Big's demise, Bad Boy was able to continue on, and Puffy put it on his back for a second, and pause. Mace put it on his back for a second, and then when Mace
Puff,
left,
even Puff put
yeah,
it on his back as well. He put
that's
it like
what put it on his back for a second.
Puff had an album. He kept it going as an artist as well. So yeah, we
Yeah,
have to give him
Puff
credit as
kept it
well.
on. Yeah, and then even if you want to say Puff didn't write his stuff, and then okay, well Jadakiss came through, did a lot of great writing on No Way Out. Same thing with Sauce Money. Same thing with Mace, because I believe Mace wrote a lot on No Way Out, and then Mace came with Harlem World, kept Bad Boy afloat, and then when Mace left and the Locks didn't really, do what people thought they were going to do, then boom, here comes Black Rob with Whoa, keeping Bad Boy going. I got to give them credit, man. They were very resilient. Not a lot of labels would have been able to survive all of that. You had
Also,
Big dying in '97 and Mace leaving in '99. Like, that's a lot.
although Puffy gets credit for being a marketing genius and his ideas, I think a lot of unsung stuff that goes into the praise that should be there should be for the hitmen as producers
Oh
as
yeah.
well. Because
Listen,
stuff that
I'm gonna be 100% honest, man. All these years, I know D. Angelique. I know, I guess Chauncey and LV were part of the Hitmen, and
Stevie J,
obviously Stevie J. I don't really know the whole Hitman roster like that. Carlos Brody, is he a part of the Hitman too?
you know what? I don't know the whole.
Yeah,
Like, I've seen the roster, official and unofficial, may have stepped in on
yeah.
stuff.
Kanye
But I
West's
want to
name.
identify, yeah, you said Dot and Stevie J or whatever. Stevie J had a lot of. He said there's a lot of things he didn't receive credit on that he did on Life After Death. I
I can
mean,
believe.
but the things we know he was
I believe
behind him.
he did Notorious Thugs.
And he did Notorious Thugs. He did More Money, More Problems. Like Stevie J was. I think he even remixed the Honey joint for Mariah. You know what I'm saying? Like there was stuff that the Hitmen were in their bag, and I know we give a lot of that production credit to Puff and his direction and the marketing, but man, the Hitmen That I think there should be people that's going in and speaking with them about their production. I know Vlad has a running interview with Stevie J right now, but I think they need to really kind of highlight the producers behind that, because I don't think they get the credit they deserve, and they're really kind of like the unsung heroes as well. Is all those people that played the background and producing and writing and just being a part of that team. Man, there's so many unsung heroes over there.
Was Mario Winans a hitman? I'm about to look up the hitman
I think
roster
Mario was a
live.
writer at some point.
Yeah. To Stevie J, man, Stevie J produced my favorite Mariah Carey song. Breakdown is crazy.
Breakdowns
And
dope.
he's a brilliant man for doing that, man.
Yeah.
Great musician. Got to give him credit where credit's due. But you're right, the Hitmen don't get all their props. Like Bad Boy was a team effort. Somebody in the chat mentioned G Dep. Yep, G Dep came right in when things looked bleak again, and it was Black Rob, Diddy, and G Dep on Make This Money, Take
Yeah.
This Money, and then here comes Special Delivery. I listen. Other than Cash Money, it's very hard to find such a resilient hip hop label, because usually when your big guy goes down, it's it. No pun intended. But you know what I'm saying? And those times when Puff had to actually put the label on his back, and he ain't even a rapper like that, I gotta give him credit, man.
Yeah, because we
So saying
seen
all
kind
that
of
to say, I feel like Big Big would have continued on. And I think Big was smart enough to understand where he needed Puff to. I think even if he was going to go off and do his own thing with I don't think it would have been a full separation. You know what I'm saying?
I also think at that time Biggie had solidified himself so early that even if he moved on from Diddy, you can't tell me there would have been other producers that wouldn't have been lining up to work with him. And that's why I say I feel like he would have did well after Diddy or post Diddy. If he would have moved on and did other things, I think he would have been fine.
Yeah, he would have been. But I think that with Puff in tow, and even I would hope that Puff would have given him the freedom to do what he needed to do. But I think that it would have been even better. You know what I mean? Yeah, he would have definitely been fine with whoever. But sometimes when you have, it's like when Snoop had to make an album without Dr. Dre. Obviously, Snoop could get anybody in the world to produce on the Dogfather. But when you lose that person totally, that basically, was the foundation of the creative force of how to put together this album. And we don't know, background wise, like what all Puff and the Hitman, conceptually brought to Big either. Even when
Yeah.
you talk about, the more money, more problems, and the fact that, we want you jumping on this Diana Ross "I'm Coming Out" sample, and jumping on
Mhm.
this Juicy Fruit sample. Like those are things that Puff brought to the table. And I think that Big probably would have been smart enough to say, okay, I can do my own thing, but I want to see what Puff got going on too. You know what I'm saying? And I
Yeah,
don't think he would totally split, but he would have been good either way. He
I
would have
think
been
so
good.
because we have to think about how when one passed, how it affected their whole group over there. Like when Pop passed away, what happened to Death Row? When Big passed away, what happened to Bad Boy? And we seen that Puff was able to pick it up and recreate success.
Yeah.
But like that shiny suit era, that stuff, that was an era, that was a time. I don't think that would have been sustainable to keep being on that thing. As eventually hip hop was going in a direction where it was growing from there anyway. And that's why I say I feel like Big figured it out in a good time so early that I feel like he would have been good after, if him and Puff wasn't even.
Is Puffy the first non-rapper to become a rap superstar?
No.
Easy E? Well, I don't know if I'm even count
That's
Easy E,
why Dr.
because he
Dre
was
out there, man.
whether Easy E was a rapper or not, he was presented to us as a rapper off top.
Yeah,
Puff
but
is
remember
somebody who was
you got your
presented to
guy
us,
Dre.
huh?
You got your guy Dre.
I guess so, but he was presented to us as a rapper first. But I got you. You're right. Technically, it's Dr. Dre.
Dre.
Dr. Dre is kind of the end all be all when we think about it, man. Dre's been around forever. I
Now,
think with
the
us,
conversation would be like, who's the better producer slash rappers? Because we have many of those. We've had some producers that try to step in as artists and didn't get it done, and some who gave us a good album or a couple few singles or whatever. I mean, we got from Jermaine Dupri to Dr. Dre to Timbaland to Manny Fresh to like who you want to name. All of those have kind of dipped their toe
all
into the
those,
artist.
all those people you named, Timbaland, Dr. Dre, Jermaine
Jermaine,
Dupri, Mandy Fresh. I think Dr. Dre's the best rapper of that bunch. But again, we kind of are judging by the writers. But I will say this: I think Jermaine Dupri is better than people think when it comes to that conversation.
yeah,
I think the greatest rapper producer all time is Kanye West. After that, maybe Q-Tip, then maybe RZA. Um, I think Tyler the Creator's in that conversation. Um,
Pharrell had his run as an artist.
Pharrell is an MC. Well, as an artist, sure. But I'm just talking about as a rapper. Pharrell got bars though. I gotta think about that.
There's some people
I like
that
Timbaland on the bar work, huh? It's Timbaland's birthday. Happy birthday to Timbaland.
shout out to
Um,
Tim.
shout out to Tim. Eric Sermon, that's a good one. Havoc, that's a
That
good
have
one.
it definitely.
But see, we got to raise the stakes a little bit. And shout out to Pete Rock. He's good on the mic too. Incredible producer. I think that when we talk about producer MCs, now we got to look at the catalog of, MC and work because Havoc doesn't have any solo material. I think that matters. You know what I'm saying? Like, Havoc's dope on the Mobb Deep stuff. And I do think that Havoc should be ranked very high when it comes to production because he produced these Mobb Deep albums, which are heavy, and produced for other people as well. But to me, and I know we briefly had this conversation last week, I feel like, man, the producers that are able to produce full length hip hop albums, I give them a leg up over the spot, production producers. And it's similar to like when we look at artists. Like if an artist can give us a hit, dope. But the ones that give us the full length albums, obviously you want somebody who's able to give you both. But if
Mhm.
it had to be between hit versus that person that can make the album, I'm gonna give that nod to the artist that's gonna be able to make an album. And the same thing with the producers, because that's a tough thing to do, to tell that story from beginning to end.
I think a producer that's able to make those albums is better for the legacy. When we go and look back at it, like it's like looking at Quincy Jones and we look at all the works he has, and you start naming the albums and whatever. It looks better on the legacy. But I think in real time, how we rate our producers are based on the number of hits that they're putting out. Because we're always talking about the producer runs. We just had a conversation recently talking about the latest producer runs and who's on fire and who's able to produce as many hits. That's a real time conversation. I think later on, when we're looking at the legacy of a producer, then we start factoring the importance of the bodies of work they produce as a whole.
I can
And so
see that because even with Metro, we had that conversation, man. Like
mhm.
Metro got hits everywhere, but I'm sitting here looking for a Metro album from beginning to end that we could put up with, some of the great produced albums.
So it's like I said, I think it's dope. When you said it, it's dope if you could be able to do both. But I don't. I don't know, man. It's like we have great producers that were able to do both, and it wasn't necessarily all in hip hop. We like Jermaine
Yeah,
Dupri and Tim has tested those waters. Even Pharrell, they have all tested those waters into other genres of music, R&B, pop, whatever, right? And there are some producers that strictly stayed in hip hop, and that doesn't discredit their bodies of works just because it's not hip hop. Good body of work is a good body of work. What Jermaine Dupri did with Mariah Carey's that album, that Emancipation of Mimio album, is incredible. What he did with Confessions is incredible. That doesn't take
yeah.
away from it just as much as what Timbaland did with Aaliyah, incredible. What he did with Genuine, incredible. Like what he did with
Just
Missy, Justin. You know what I'm saying?
to
Incredible.
me, Future Sex Love Sounds is End to end, it's Timbaland's best produced album. Yeah, I'm gonna land on that. Yeah, end to end. If we're talking about produced album, end to end, I think Justin Timberlake's Future Sex Love Sounds is Timbaland's best produced album. The transitions were crazy. The beat changes were crazy on there. The hits are on there, you know what I'm saying? And you have the in-depth album songs on there as well. And they were just, no pun intended, very in sync on that project. I think that's his best produced album. Next to that, I would say Missy's The Real World, her second album. That was
Well,
crazy. I
I
remember
mean,
hearing that and being
production has
like,
been crazy,
what
but
is
I think.
this?
What were you saying, Mike? I'm sorry.
I said I remember hearing Missy's second album for the first time and be like, yo, what is this?
Even when I look at the Aaliyah albums, man, One in a Million was amazing.
No, but he didn't do that whole album. Yeah, One in a Million is crazy. If
Yeah,
Your Girl Loves You is crazy. Like, the song One in a Million, 4-page letter. Those records crazy.
yeah. Or when I'm looking at the Aaliyah self-titled album, the production on that is crazy. Like what I'm saying is like, um, I mean, we could weigh equally as both if you want to look at. I guess it's just subjective how they want to look at it. Because I do believe it is important that if you are a producer, you can create whole bodies of work. I think that gives you another leg of other producers in this era, because we're in the era of now these producers are not in the studio with these rappers. They're just literally there. And then we're in an era of beat makers versus producer. I think there's two totally different versions of that. A producer to me is conceptually giving you uh the thought of what they want the concept of the song to be, working with you on cadence, flow, how to attack the song to make an overall great body of a song, as opposed to just giving you a beat and just sending it to you and like send it back to me and I'll mix it up. There's a difference in that. Yes, we have seen greatness done on both sides, but I think that's what separates what a real producer is versus a beat maker. So yeah, I think in this era, I think it does more for you when you can create those bodies of works, because we've seen people that just can grab beats off YouTube and make a hit. And I think it does more for you if you could really sit down and lock in with an artist and produce greatness. It's like
Well, you're
Swiss
right.
beat
And
net,
to that
you know?
point, in the way that music is put together now, do producers or beat makers or whatever, do they even have the opportunity to be producers? Because you can't remotely be a producer. At that point, if you're sending somebody a record, unless you done demoed this thing all the way out, you're pretty much subjected to being a beat maker in this point. You know what I'm saying? Like, somebody asks you for some beats to choose from, you don't have the opportunity to even produce at that point, unless it's a situation where they pick the beat and they say, okay, well, I want you to come out and work on it with me. That probably is not going to happen. They pick the beat, they're going to record it and send it back to you finished. You know what I mean? So
Think about Dre
producers
trying to work
get an
remotely with
opportunity
artists.
to be producers. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, just think about Dr. Dre trying to work remotely for an artist.
It's not going to happen. He's not even going to do it. And he has the kind of cachet where he can say, look, if I'm not doing the whole project, I'm not producing anything on the project.
Yeah, so it's like I said, for legacy, yeah, I can see how the bodies of work. That's really what stamps you. But I think in real time, we just look at the number of hits, because like when we're ranking recent producers, we're talking about the past joints that they did, the hits. What have so and so did for you lately, and that's how it was looked at. But I think equally both are important: the hit records and the albums. You
Well,
know,
currently, to that point, currently, I would have Hit Boy over Metro because Hit Boy has hits and he can actually make albums. But Metro has the hits, and
I think Metros have shown that he could be able to do both as well. I think Metro has been able to give you the hits, but he was able to not only do that within just with hip hop artists alone, but he's even produced a soundtrack. You
yeah,
know, I feel
and
like
he
that's
did
another
his
bag.
album. Yeah,
And the things he's done with Future on those produced records, I'm like, yeah, Future is a dope artist, but without that, you know, that production, it does something different. So it's like, I don't know, man. I think throughout the years, the way we look at production is different.
uh
But
huh.
really what matters to me is who can make the best complete songs. It's not more so than just the beat, but you could have a hottest beat with the song concepts being terrible or the rapper being terrible. I think a producer being there locked in to craft a record with you is where we get to see those jewels coming from more. You know what I'm saying? Like when a producer is locked in. For example, I'm listening to how like I wasn't a biggest fan of this Larry June and Two Chains album, but it I went back and listened to it, and I'm kind of feeling it a little bit more. But
Me
it's
too.
like you can see what it's like with the producer locking in with them, and it makes me anticipate what Static Selector uh and um and Two
And
Chains is gonna do on the solo.
that shit's gonna be fire. I'm gonna tell you
Right.
that now, man. Like Two Chains is one of those guys, and people used to laugh at me when I said this, man. Like Two Chains appreciates music on every level, and he can adjust to whatever. Like you can hear by the way that he crafts his rhymes and his bars that he does connect with that East Coast centric sound. And I know Alchemist is from the West Coast, but y'all know what I mean. He can adjust to those things because he can appreciate all those things. And we saw that on the Larry June project. I am the project with Larry June and Alchemist. I'm
Mm.
really excited to hear what Two Chains and Static Selector can put together because Static Selector, he's one of those producers that's very consistent. You know what you're going to get from him sonically. You already know. I'm also hearing, speaking of Alchemist, the Alchemist is putting out there that he want to work with Future. What do you think about Alchemist and Future collab? What does that sound like?
I think it's good with pushing the envelope for a new sound for him. We know what we're kind of used to with Future. When he announced he's gonna drop a mixtape, we kind of anticipate what that's gonna sound like. It's kind of like a theme to me at this point. But Alchemist said he's supposed to be working with Big Sean too, and I think I'm actually looking forward to that more over the or future possible collaboration
I'm
because
intrigued by the Future collaboration because, again, like I said earlier with the Scarface and Luda, I would just wonder what that'll sound like.
the sound
Um,
will be different, right? Yeah.
yeah, it's like, that's
Mhm.
that's an interesting collaboration. And when we talk about Metro, I'm waiting for this Metro and JID, man. Like, what is going on with that? I think that that is very necessary. Obviously, Metro doesn't quote unquote need it, but it would be great to have a rapper of his generation or of this generation like JID that raps at the level that he raps at, rhyming over nothing but Metro tracks for a whole effort. I think that is something that is definitely needed, and I'm really interested and intrigued in.
Yeah, man. I mean, we could easily see what the cream of the crop is with the producers now versus, certain beat makers that just throw joints out there and they may have the credits because, their beats was chosen. But I see there's a big difference between a producer really locking in and working with a producer. I mean, working with an artist. We seen that a lot with a lot of OG artists last year when they were able to lock in, whether it was, you know,
Q-Tip
you
and
know,
LL, Common and
Hit Boy
Pete.
Nas throughout the years, Q-Tip and LL, and whoever was producing MC Light stuff was pretty good. But the production on Ice Cube stuff was dope. I don't think it was just one producer, but man, you know, I just feel like we need to get back to producers just being producers, bro. Like whether you're gonna produce a whole album or if you're just gonna work with an artist to formulate some songs, we need producers to really get back to that because I feel like that's where we got the essence of best songs. You know,
Well,
um,
I mean, we got to be honest about it, though. The reason why we don't have that is, where's the money when it comes to the music, right? It used to be easy when the labels had a budget and it was like, look, we, lock in with this producer. That producer could go ahead and get taken care of. The records were going to sell. They were going to get their points. But the streaming era makes it very difficult for producers to do that in that same way without just doing that. I don't want to say doing it for the love, but you know what I mean? Like, not really,
eat too.
huh?
They got to eat too.
They got to eat too. And, and they're not going out there getting show money like the artists are. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it becomes one of those things where it has to be, unfortunately, at this point, an investment for the artist or the label to say, I want this producer's time for a whole effort where he's just totally focused on me, you know?
Yeah. I mean, there's some people that have the
Unfortunately,
luxury of locking in with producers and doing it. The ones that really want to, they're figuring it out. Because Two
yeah,
Chains is doing, he's moving off independent. Two Chains is independent now. He's not on Def Jam no more.
yeah. I'm sure
So,
he's coming out of pocket with this Static Selector thing. You know what I'm
but
saying? Like that's
sure
love.
that I'm also sure of that. If Two Chains was still on Def Jam, he probably wouldn't have been working with these producers either.
Exactly. Well,
You know,
that kind of
so
goes to, and I know this wasn't on our show docket, but what Jermaine Dupri put out that tweet a couple of days ago, basically asking artists, what's the benefit or of being independent or why they don't want to be major or something like that. And the overall consensus from Crooked Eye and people like Ransom was the
Mhm.
freedom. And I don't know if people who've been in the music industry for 40 years on an executive level totally understand that part of it. But yeah, there is a level of artistic freedom that still goes along with the music. And I feel like artists are freer than they've ever been. But unfortunately, even with that freedom, I don't feel like we're getting the best music that we've ever gotten either. I always was of the mindset that if an artist is free and able to do what they want, we're going to get the best out of them. I don't know if that's the case.
I don't fully agree with that either. And I think the perception of that looks like that because
Mhm.
it's not being pushed in our face. It's not it's not being marketed in a way where it's like you have to hear it and force down your throat so much pause to where you are literally it's literally stuck in your mind like brainwash. And I think that's the difference. Um we have been programmed to like certain joints just because of the nature of how often we hear it.
Yeah,
Um as opposed to those independent artists, they're making a good music, but they're not getting the same push. Whereas the music is more of being pushed to our front and being heard as often. Because there's some great independent projects. I mean, you guys named some on previous shows and stuff, but
yeah.
it's not going to get the same push to the general public and mainstream media. So we kind of like think that that material is not as good as the mainstream stuff when some of it really is. Some of this mainstream stuff just sucks. It's just been like
Yeah.
repetitive and just constantly put out there for us that like we automatically hold that major mainstream stuff to be better, and it's not always better.
I know. I totally agree with that. And I think what I was saying was being misunderstood, man. Nah, of
Mhm.
course, the mainstream stuff isn't better. It actually never really has been on that sense, but sometimes it's more palatable. But I will say this, it does feel like when the artists who were previously mainstream, they go independent, do their, independent thing or whatever, it's like you can't really tell what the singles and stuff are, based on what you're accustomed to hearing from them, right? And I love the fact that Two Chains is making his rounds and just making dope projects. Unfortunately, when artists do have that freedom and don't have the support of the machine like that, they have to drop 2 and 3 albums, a year, and those songs and albums don't get a chance to breathe to the point where they do get, the adulation that they deserve. There has to be some level of a median, man. And I guess the fans kind of got to come in with that. The fans got to go out there and support these independent efforts or these efforts where artists are no longer with the majors so that they can continue to be creative in that sense.
But
I just hate that these projects like the Master Ace project from last year,
mm,
like it was so dope, man. I just wish that everybody was continuously playing it, throughout the whole year where it didn't feel like these albums, get like a spark for a month and then people move on to something else. And like you said, that's the machine, being able to continuously put stuff in people's faces where it feels like these songs are around still. Like Not Like Us is almost a year old and I'm still hearing that song on a daily. You know what I
mhm.
mean? And it feels like when somebody drops a dope project a couple of weeks ago, I only hear it for a couple of weeks. You know what I mean? And then after that, people are like, "Oh, where's the next project? Where's the next?" Like they burn out these independent pushes.
So to level set on that, right? When that's the case, that's when the consumer has to create that demand.
Yeah.
because we're not discovering music from radio. I can't think of the last time a radio I've listened to and be like, oh man, I heard this new shit and I'm taking it back and telling other people about it. I
Right.
discovered more stuff on the internet than I've ever discovered new music on radio. So the radio is not a factor right now of how we discover music. It's the internet. So just like some less talented made songs or ones that are dumb or whatever in nature grows from people talking about it, I'll say it over and over again. Do that for these artists that are not getting that push. If it's dope, I want you guys ranting and raving about it and telling people why it's the best thing since sliced bread, just as much as you guys spew the hate. You know, shout out this music, interview those artists, feature, do something like support those artists in a way that you guys, as much energy that you put into the hate that you guys put on these chats and comments and blogs or whatever, IG posts, whatever, like prop up the good because
People
that's
want
how
to be entertained. You're right. Yeah. People want to be entertained.
it's so I'm gonna consistently say that, man, because now, back then, like I said, I think us as consumers have more so of a say so in the music as ever than what we once did, just because the radio doesn't tell us what's hot and what's not no more. Radio
Well,
plays the 4 or 5 songs in rotation all day.
all
But
day. Let me ask you
but
this. Let
yeah,
me ask you this, not to interrupt your thought, but what what advice would you give to an artist that's coming out and to promote their music, an independent artist? What is the best way in today's game and with everything we see in the chat, everything we see online or whatever, what would be the best approach to market your music as an independent artist releasing an effort?
the biggest thing is knowing your demographic. Once you know your demographic, you could see where to market it to. I want to say social media is a very big tool, but being visible as far as like letting the people see you. And this is like what I say about Doechii. Even before Doechii started getting accolades, we can go see her performing at festivals. We can see her doing shows, whatever. These artists need to go back to work in their music. Don't just put it out on the internet and see if it hits or not. No, go out there and be visible. I've seen artists I've never heard of before have like these followings that's crazy when I go to festivals like a Rolling Loud. They might not have been on that big main stage, but there's 4 stages or 5 stages, however they grow to it now. And I've seen artists that I've never heard of before to have people, the teenagers or young people that's out there and they're showing love to them, they're supporting it. So being visible, man, knowing your demographic, working in music, get tight with DJs. And I know people like to make it seem like DJs are not important, but they are still in a sense. We may say DJs are not breaking records like they used to, but these are the people that could that controls how this is spent in these clubs and stuff like that, man. The usual artists that I know that are locked in, they have a contact list full of DJs. Whether they're
Yeah.
locked in with different DJ pools, they're doing conference calls. Like it's so much more work that's going into it. You can't just put it out there on the internet and if it's dope, you really had to do this work, man. And I think that's what artists need to understand is like, yeah, you could throw it out there and if it work, it work. Cause we see a lot of people that reach that instant success or that viral stuff. But man, you still gotta go work your record. You still gotta like feed your base. You still gotta appeal to your demo. And it's just like I think not only did the artists get lazy, but the labels got lazy because they know the radio doesn't drive and you can rely on the internet so much that they'll see somebody who went viral and scored off that and they just gotta try to reduplicate those efforts. And
I do agree. I think performance is extremely important. I think that's something that is just always going to be a thing. It's always going to be, people are always going to want to see live entertainment, especially young people, right? Like you feel that energy. There's no duplicating that. And if you're able to bring your record to life on stage, you could capture an audience and capture people's attention. So I do agree. Live performance is huge. Now, as far as the DJ thing, I don't know who feels like DJs aren't important anymore because I mean, really, that's how people are still, hearing their music. People are still breaking records. Like I
Well, see,
love
that's
listening to
been an argument.
DJs. Huh? Go ahead.
An argument for 10 years. I've seen
Yeah.
DJs
I
really
think
have
I
that
think they're probably
conversation.
dominating that with the radio DJs because when you go out to a club or go out, wherever, or even if you listen to satellite or wherever, you know what I'm saying, a function, it's gonna be a DJ there that has their pulse, has their ear to the street and the
Mm-hmm.
pulse to the community to play stuff that they know that people are rocking with. And you know what I mean? Strip club DJs are always breaking records, always have.
Some of the biggest records are broken in strip clubs. Facts. But
Yeah.
this has been an argument and a war between certain DJs and artists, and I see it in real time. Even in my city, in different cities, there's artists that complain, "Oh, these DJs, there's so much talent in our city, and these DJs are not breaking them. They'll break somebody from outside the city and get on their train before they prop up people from their city." This has been an ongoing conversation within the last 10 years. You don't think
Mm,
other regions or other cities have people who come from it? Like in order for Atlanta to get to where it was because Atlanta supported their own. The DJs
straight
played their music. They supported that.
I seen
That's
that in real time.
in real time. And so I think that's something that is highly desired. We have to have those relationships between the DJ and the artist, as well as we have to have the visibility, as well as you need to know your demo. These artists now are used to the internet and people just being wild and crazy. They just throwing things at the wall and see if it stick. And it's just like knowing the demo is half of the battle, because when you are trying to come out and you're everywhere with your music, different people don't know how to box you in. That could be to your
Yeah.
detriment. You could be that dope where you can cover a lot of stuff, but if people can't nail you to something in the beginning, it's like it's kind of hard to catch, man. I feel like now more than ever is like the best range when the consumer kind of has control of stuff, because we have the power to prop up what we think is dope, and we share and comment and do things on stuff that we feel is negative, that we literally promote them into success. I've seen it done with artists that were not supposed to achieve that type of success with the quality of music, but because people hated it, "Oh, this shit's so trash," but you're sharing it, that's a view. You share it to other people, everybody else hating, that's a view. Next thing you know, millions of people have viewed this, and this is the next hottest person. So like I said, man, like,
I saw Trinidad James blow up like that, you know.
yeah, man.
Did you see this video? The Razor Head with the super chat says chasing radio in the internet era ain't crazy. I mean, I think that I mean it's not about chasing radio, and I think people correlate DJs with radio. Not all DJs are on the radio. Like there's a very
They're not.
select few DJs that are on the radio. You're a DJ, right? What's the
Yeah.
relationship like between DJs and artists, and where does that need to improve?
I think, all right. So one of the biggest thing is money. And the reason why, you have some DJs that if it's dope, they'll just play your shit. But you
Yeah,
have certain DJs, I'm not playing your shit if you don't have no money for me. You know what
yeah.
I'm saying? Because if I open up these floodgates, there's gonna be a million people trying to come to me with their hard drives or whatever and trying to, you know what I'm saying? So that's one
Well,
part.
time out. Before you go any further, hold
Yeah.
that thought because I know how people in the chat will take that. You
Mhm.
have to understand when there's a DJ who's been in the game 10, 15, 20 years, has built their rep off of the fact that they got listeners that rock with them, that, you know what I'm saying, trust what they play, and they could possibly lose or gain credibility based on what you're giving them. And like you said, open the floodgates. You have to respect that DJ enough to say, yes, your spin is worth that much to me. Here you go. You know what I'm saying? Go
Yeah.
ahead. I'm sorry.
And like you said, I mean, you're right. You're totally right. And so
Because if
being
he
that
was a white DJ, you wouldn't be handing him shit.
exactly.
And he
So they
had
have
no
to protect, and I've seen it on both sides, from an artist and from the DJ standpoint. Like
yeah,
the DJ have something to uphold, because if I play this in a hype party and this shit is ass, my reputation's on the line now. They're gonna look at me, whatever. But then I see it from the artist standpoint, is how I'm gonna get out here if I can't get the music to the people. Well, now
right.
you can go directly to consumer. And I guess that's what make people feel like the DJs are not important. But take it like this, and you said this point, DJs are in so many avenues, just not in the club no more. You can go to TikTok, find them DJing live, Twitter, IG, people are DJing live. People have their platforms. I seen a DJ I've never even heard of that has thousands and thousands of subscribers that go check him to DJ live on TikTok. There's a lot of them now on TikTok. Maybe instead of going for the big fish, maybe you should go tap in with all those DJs that have those platforms and people are tuning in on them on the internet, or locking in with people like that has platforms like us,
Yeah.
where that welcomes this type of stuff. Lock in with them, see what you can get with them, create those relationships, man. Or it's so many avenues now that, like, I feel like it's more open than ever, but we still have the mainstream that exists. But like I said, if we take an artist from our city and we really, if the music is good and we rant and rave about it as much as they do the hate, I feel like that will, it will cause a change in the ecosystem for music. And like I said, man, unfortunately, the negative overweighs the positive in quality now. That is just like we're kind of do it to ourselves, and artists are kind of doing it to themselves as well. Because even our big three, right, in hip hop, who named the big three, Wale, Cole, and Drake. One thing I can say about all three of those guys, we seen the beginning. Yeah, they signed to major labels or whatever, but they had a grind before this. Drake was doing tours or whatever that Kendrick was featured on beforehand. The visibility was there. You know what I'm saying? I remember in FAMU alone, I didn't go to this show, but my best friend did when we was in college. I was being too cool for school. I lived off campus. I was like, man, I ain't going back to campus for this. But I remember Wale and J. Cole coming to the campus and performing for free. And the only
Yeah.
thing you had to do to get into that show was have canned goods. Bring a canned good in, because I think they were doing it for a fundraiser or a drive for Thanksgiving or something. And they killed it, bro. And it's just
Yeah.
like, um,
Those are memories, right? Like
yeah, these are,
those
they're
are
building, like they built off.
experiences that new artists can create and have to create to get to that next level. You're right. I mean, I think you said something at the beginning that was like on point. You got to know your demographic. And once you know that, you got to get ready to work. Because especially even now when it comes to the internet and everything else that's around that whole, internet universe, it's so many pockets of fan bases out there. You just got to find your tribe and those people who are going to appreciate what you do. And they're going to share that to these groups. They're going to share that in these
And it's not
chats,
easy.
group chats.
It's not easy. The
It's
grind is not
not-
easy at
You got
all.
to be ready to work. I will say this: the days of one or two songs blowing you up is over. That's not going to happen. You
But
gotta, like you said,
so
you
many
gotta
tools
have
and
you gotta have
avenues,
some
man.
groundwork.
Yeah, there's so many tools and avenues, but what people need to see is you still need to do the work. And I talked about that even in the interview with Chanel. We were just talking about what she does at the PR standpoint and how people on the internet makes everything look easy. They making a
Yeah,
hit record is not easy. It's very hard. It's
it's a
very
hard
hard.
thing to do.
But I've seen so many people on their grind just be visible and just put themselves. And maybe you have to invest in yourself. And I know a lot of people take advantage of up and coming artists who are doing that by taking their money,
Money.
but there is a little bit of truth in this. You do have to invest in yourself. Now, investing in yourself is not me paying you X amount of money to get on your mixtape that's not going nowhere and you hosting. And this is just
Right.
something we've seen that during 2020. I've seen so many artists that wasn't making money like that, or whatever figures that was once in music during 2020. You can see how many I've seen it. I've seen it. Yeah, to get be hosted on my mixtape, blah blah blah. Pay this, and I can have your
Yeah.
song on there, and that mixtape don't do anything.
And that's
To me,
unfortunate.
yeah, to me, investing in yourself means, hey, you may have to pay to go get on some open mics or go perform, open for some people or doing some things. Or, there's a grind to this. Go and make yourself visible, man. But create merch. There's so many things that you could do to get people up to your stuff without you having to have a gimmick, without you having to, be ridiculous, man. It's just, you know what? Like I said, you may not have to go to the biggest DJ in the city. Like I said, there's DJs that do a lot of stuff in the social media space or whatever. If you have a song and it's being spreaded everywhere and it's growing like wildfire, you push this so much to those other avenues that if it's circulating a lot, it'll catch the ears of those big people to it's so undeniable that they are forced to play it. And you may not even have to pay them jokers. You know what I'm
The
saying?
gimmick
Like,
seems so much easier for people, right? To go out there with crazy, narratives, a crazy video, say something crazy, wild out and all of that. But it ain't no longevity in that. You're not going to get any real fans from that. I mean, it's like that in the podcast game too. Like you can get on this microphone and just say some wild shit and, and
bro,
trend and,
it's
and all of
dope when
those.
the music supplements. Like if you go out there and you do some wild stuff, but if you have the dope music, then we can kind of see it, and we kind of overlook a lot of gimmicky shit that these rappers done. Let's not forget the baby being in a diaper outside.
I
Let's not
remember
forget
that.
Young Thug dressing, being in dresses. Let's not think like there's so many ridiculous things that people did early in their career that they've blown so fast that like and
People
had
forgot.
we kind of overlooked that stuff, but it worked. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It worked. But just like people are looking at, like female rapper perspective, like Meg, looking at her documentary, we see what her grind was in the little cypher videos and freestyle videos she was doing and stuff like that. So she was working. She was doing. They showed her performing. I'm so happy that they shared this in the documentary. They showed her performing, and the crowd was she performing for. It was like what, probably like 12, 20 people there. It was at her college, and
I remember posting an early freestyle of
yeah,
hers, man. And
man,
she hit me in the inbox and was like, can you tag this page? Because they had like multiple pages and all that. I'm like, cool. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
man,
And I'd
so many.
never heard of her. I just saw, somebody spitting and it was like, thought it was some dope content and just, shared it from there. But yeah, she was grinding.
Yeah, you don't
And
have to go chase nobody down with a demo in 2025 or wait outside a radio in
yeah,
2025. You could literally do a dope song, lock in, and go directly consumer. You could put something on the internet, and I know they say once you put something on the internet, it stays. Hey man, you can put something out on YouTube, and if it ain't performing how you want, you could go take it off and think about the next thing to get hot and rolling. There's so many avenues for artists these days, and it's not going to be easy. It's not. But
I mean, because
you have
everybody has
more tools now
access
than
to
ever.
it, you know what I'm saying? Like, everybody has the ability to go out there and do what you're about to do, so that makes the playing field a lot harder. So that means, like you said, it's gonna be a grind. It is
Yeah,
what it is.
definitely, definitely.
Yeah. But, yeah, I think the performance is a separator, in my opinion. If you can captivate people from a performance standpoint and you got your music to match that and you found your audience, then, you got your way.
You could getting put on a playlist is dope now, and
Yeah.
yeah, if you can get
That's
you
a
featured
huge
on a dope
opportunity.
playlist these
Yeah.
days, yeah.
What was I gonna say, man? Oh yeah, speaking of Megan, I hate to do this transition like this. Did
Yeah,
you hear
I'll
Tori's
transition.
album?
I listened to some of it, and
Uh-huh.
all right, I like some things that I heard, but it's like the over glaring thing is like is always gonna revert back to like Meg. They're like kind of conjoined at the hip now, even though Tori does dope music. You know what I'm saying? Like the Chicks tapes, mixtapes were dope. Like Tori is a talented guy, but
Yeah.
like now you guys are kind of conjoined at the hip now, you and Meg, that you even went to the length of still saying her name in a record, and I don't know how that does for you. I don't know what that do for you. And she's making every effort to shut you up. I mean, you got the restraining order, you got things that they're doing against you, and you're constantly doing this. If you're gonna fight it in court, but you putting this in the music, is I don't think it will work well for you. And as we're looking at the holistic thing of it, we still don't know what happened that night. We really don't. We just
Probably
know
never.
this man is in jail, but we don't know what happened this night.
Well,
So
let me say this. I don't want to be a hypocrite because at the end of the day, he was found guilty.
he was.
The phone record of him, basically admitting to something crazy happening that night. So we don't know in detail what happened that night, but based on the court of law, I guess we got to say that what she said happened is what happened. We don't
You
have
know,
any other proof otherwise. You know what I mean?
yeah, it being that we don't, and we may not ever know what happened, but
Yeah.
to hear you going about it in this nature in the music, and you didn't even do that hard with your life, go that hard with your life being on the line to testify and do that type of stuff. I feel like you're doing a disservice to yourself, because you could defend all this stuff, you saying all this stuff. Not only were you doing it in the socials between all that, but you put it in the music. Man, you going harder for this than what you did when you had the opportunity to present that in court, man. And so I kind of don't want to hear that. If you're gonna do music, I want to hear the dope music, but like I don't want to hear anything supplying that case, because you had the chance to stick up for yourself when you had the opportunity, whether he did it or not. You had your time.
Honestly, man, when we look back at it and really, go down the timeline or whatnot, everything was all good, quote unquote, until he just started going in on her on Twitter or whatever. And then she's like, "You shot me," and boom,
It
here we
did.
go.
It
If
got
he would
ugly.
have just chill from jump, based on what we were seeing, like none of this would have even happened.
And,
And
and I
so, yeah,
I hate that they're so conjoined at the hip, and he's doing, like, he's saying certain things in records, because now it makes it to where we can't even openly like support a Tory project, even if it's dope, because it's gonna make us look like man haters. But if we say we don't like a Meg, record, then it's gonna make it seem like we're woman haters. And it's just like, I mean, I'm sorry. If we
I
say
know.
we love a Tory, yeah, you know what I'm saying. If we say we like Tory's project, then it's gonna look like we're women haters. If we say that we don't like a Meg project, then it's gonna look like we're women haters. So it's like it's hard because now we can't even openly show support of this project if it was dope because you've made it to where you're not separating that situation in your music no more. That automatically, if we think this shit is dope, then they're gonna be like, oh well, you're supporting what he did, and that's not the case, bro. We just want to enjoy the music. So being that we don't know what's going on and we made that, I mean, we didn't know what happened and we may not know whatever happens. It's just like, bro, just if you're gonna do music, keep in the music. And I know people like to put the personal in the music, whatever, but I don't think it's helping him in this case. But how
Yeah.
if he didn't do it and they can get it appealed and you have everything, best wishes to you. If you did do it, then you're in the right place you're supposed to be in. But I still think there's some like funny stuff going on with that stuff that we didn't get the real truth of that anyway. But
Yeah,
man, it's
I
like,
think for me, man, and you're right. And I think there's a lot of changing of stories, a lot of changing of the eyewitnesses and blah, blah,
yeah,
blah.
man,
The one thing that stands true though is like that phone call is very damning.
it
That
is.
phone call that he
I was
made
gonna
that
say
night is very damning. You know what I mean? And
it is.
I don't see how anybody could hear that and feel like, oh, well, she just making all this up. Like, something's going on. That was him. He
There's something
called
that's not being
him.
told. So if you knew something differently and you wasn't willing to throw somebody under the bus, Tori, I know we're in the no snitching era, but that's woman beef that happened, bro. You just imagine that fall from grace. You literally went from being in a pool with Kylie Jenner to you sitting in this jail cell. All from that night incident, man.
Well, speaking of Fall from Grace,
Crazy.
man, R. Kelly was on a podcast this week. Speaking of Fall from Grace, R. Kelly was on a podcast this week. Did you hear R. Kelly's interview from jail?
I didn't watch the whole interview. I seen a clip, and he said he has like written like over 25 albums worth of music, and I'm just like, this is what I'm saying, bro. Like,
I
I
watched
don't know
it.
hip hop's obsession with people in jail or people getting locked up and or getting killed. It's like we tend to support those artists when they're coming out of a bad situation more than what they were when they were just out and free. And I don't get it.
I think
I don't
we
get it.
support as, and not even just hip hop. I think that when it comes to our artists and musicians, we support the grit of what it sounds like when they're going through struggles. Like struggle music is the music that people want to hear. Like if Mary's going through a breakup or something, people want to hear that because I mean people have their own individual struggles too, and I think that it just hits different for folks. And I hate to say that, but yeah, when our artists or artists in general are going through a tough time, they make some of their best work, or at least work that translates as people to people as their best work.
You know, but who can we say that for outside the ones that we know of, like a Pac? It worked well when he got out and All Eyes on Me, but how many others did benefit off like being in those type of situations? Let's think
Oh
about as
yeah, the jail part of it. Yeah, you're right. I just think
we
tough times in general. But yeah, I mean, when it comes to R. Kelly, I think that everybody's always been conflicted with quote unquote supporting his music because let's just keep it real. Like R. Kelly is a great artist, great writer, great singer, great performer. And, it's hard for people to part with, the music. And I'm not even saying that you should. I guess that's a personal choice or whatever. But again, what he's been convicted of is some egregious shit. And if you morally are okay with listening to his music at the same level or at a more intensified level, I guess that's on you. But I don't know, man. When somebody, but I feel what you're saying. It does feel like people are more inclined to support R. Kelly now than they were when he was a free man.
think about it, man. Young Thug was fighting for his life, and people was worried about, man. I wonder what this album gonna sound when he get out.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Like we tend to support
great.
things in the nature of like more than when they're out and free. You know what I'm saying? Like the anticipation and the hype is always there when somebody beat a case or people already like ASAP announced that he was doing a project way before like this trial took place.
Yeah,
Right? That anticipation is different now he beat this trial. after he
This
beat
is the
that.
most promo I've ever seen ASAP get. That's
You know
just
what I'm
real.
saying? This is stuff that,
I'm thinking
or
he should
let's not talk
stop
about.
it quickly because it's kind of dying down. I mean, I hate to say it like that, but you know what I mean. Like he needs to drop "Don't Be Dumb" quickly. Like,
And it's just like an artist dying. Soon as they die, the next day their streaming goes up. You know what I'm saying? Where is the support when these people are alive? Where is the support when these people are free? Like hip hop
well, where
has
do
a
you
obsession
think all of
with
this comes from? Do you think that's just a human nature thing? Like, where do you think this whole thing comes from? Because I remember hearing somebody say, it wasn't somebody, it was Farnsworth Bentley, I think it was. When
support.
Michael Jackson died, he said, music sounds better to me now. Like I think that's sick. Where does this come from?
I don't know. And this is what I'm saying. It's the culture, bro. It's the culture that we created in hip hop where we hype coming out of bad situations more than we do when they're out. Like I look at how the hype was for Bobby Smurder. What did Bobby Smurder do when he come out? No diss to Bobby Smurder, but what has he done since he been out?
Exactly. Listen, I am so glad you mentioned Bobby Shmurda because everybody was on their records talking about free Shmurda, this and that. You know what I'm saying? When he came out, the Knicks had a whole they had like Madison Square Garden banner. Everybody was coming out getting them cash and this and that. And ain't none of these people work with this man. You know what? Pimp C called this out when he was locked up. Cause when Pimp C was locked up, everybody was talking about some free Pimp C, this, that, and the third. He gets out, ain't no them same people ain't hitting him back for no collabs.
I'm
It's
telling you,
crazy. People use these situations for attention,
I just
unfortunately.
see how
And
people like switch and turn so fast too.
yeah,
Because look at, and this is not even an artist, for example. Everybody for years was saying free Meech, BMF, BMF, BMF. Now I see what 50 is doing now. It's not cool for Meech no more. It's not, you know what I'm saying? Like I see how you guys switched on you that fast and how people react. Like it just crazy. Now the difference between Tory and R. Kelly in this situation is R. Kelly's already cemented in different generations throughout music. You know, people parents listen to R. Kelly, people parents listen to R. Kelly in some form or fashion with how young they are. So it's like, even with him being locked up, even everything that he did, which we know has been some totally egregious allegations, somehow people still make a defense to want to listen to him. And they still
right.
support it. And that's why I say there's the contradictions. We could talk of hip hop with what's
Well, see,
supported
that's the
over
thing,
things, actions that
and
are done. But yeah,
what I think it is, and not to interrupt you, I feel like people use these folks who are already in the news cycle for, bad things, and we already know that the news cycle is going to elevate for people that are, going through trials and this and that, and they use these people in their trials in their worst time to kind of attach themselves to it. They're attaching themselves to the attention, like you said. When Meek was locked up, it was free Meek. It was free Meek, free Meek. Where are these people at now that Meek is free and he's able to make whatever music? You know what I'm
no,
saying?
those are the
Same
same
thing
people
with
that now
Bobby
make me the
Smurda.
laughing stock.
Yeah, like you said, Big Meech. Everybody was saying his name. He's out now. You know what I'm saying? So what's up? You know what I mean? And it feels like people use individuals who are in terrible circumstances almost for promo.
Because people
And
attach themselves to something that they feel that could potentially like it just the clout. The clout stuff is a disease. Clout is a disease, bro. Just like hate is a disease, clout is a disease too. The tension is one of the biggest diseases that everybody is plagued with. That's the biggest pandemic is attention and clout. Because I seen everybody who want to stand next to people when they hot, and then when they get in situations, those people ain't nowhere to be found. I'm seeing that happen with Diddy. Whether Diddy did what he did or not, I seen a lot of people when he was running around with Carisha and he had Deleon, he was doing the Love album, he was work. Everybody was at a part of people supporting Puff. Puff get locked up. Nobody saying a word.
Lord with the super chat says, "What was R. Kelly convicted of? It's trafficking, right? I forgot the
Yeah,
actual."
trafficking and something else. But I mean, even if where there's smoke, there's fire for R. Kelly. But even I say with his trial, I don't see what he was really like. What did you find him guilty of? What was the evidence he was found guilty of? It seemed like he was found in a court of public opinion based off like some documentaries or whatever. I don't really see what the facts of the matter of the case is. But it's not saying that he didn't do some of this shit.
Exactly.
But still, I see the support is always there for him because he's been cemented within the culture so much that through good, bad, and indifferent, they're still gonna listen to that. I see that same shit happening with Kanye, and Kanye's not locked up, but people will still make an excuse to listen to Kanye no matter what he says that may be going against your own best interests. I still see people make Kanye still could go sell out an arena. Kanye could still sell you a product. Kanye, and that's what I'm saying, man. I just be trying to figure out what lines do people want to sit on, or what do they want to support, or what is it that they're go for versus other people, because the contradictions is out here, man. And I'm
But
just understand, bro.
it kind of goes back to what you were talking about, though. People are going to make excuses for artists or individuals that they have that level of connection with, whether they have that level of connection with that music. People are
Mhm.
gonna rock for whoever they like, and they're going to knock down whoever they don't like. People have a very tough time being objective when it comes to, folks that they really like.
It's
And sometimes when you're trying to be objective, it comes across as, that you're switching up, or what I'm saying, being hypocritical. But it's like, you gotta try to be objective. And yeah, I'm a huge Kanye fan of at least the music that he's made, and his story. I think he has a phenomenal story. I think he changed hip hop forever. But I'm not gonna sit there and let those notions cloud from whatever he's doing right now. I'm not going to sit there and co-sign those things, because I know how important that he has been to hip hop and to, culture in general. And whatever he's going through, man, I wish him the best as a fan of his music and
because the
a
facts and
fan
the
of the culture. But, that doesn't mean that you can't draw that line and say, yo, R. Kelly's a great artist, a great writer, a great performer, but a terrible person for doing the things that he's convicted of.
I mean, we have a lot of terrible people that make music that we know and love. It just that
Yeah,
some of that stuff just hasn't been put out into the public, and some of it has, and it just gets swept under the rug just because we love those people enough. Like I
right.
said, but R. Kelly's case, he's so ingrained in culture, and he has his classics, he had his music that people could oversee through all of that stuff. You know what I'm saying? Just like I feel Kanye, or if there's certain people that is just
Well, let
people
me
are so.
ask you.
Mm,
Let me ask you this while I'm thinking about it, and while people were talking about it in the chat. Talk about being ingrained in culture. Diddy is as well. And why doesn't Diddy get that same, I guess, support, if you will? Because yes, people support R. Kelly, even with the conviction and all that.
mm.
Diddy doesn't seem to be getting that same benefit of the doubt as a Tory Lanez or as a R. Kelly. Do people just already outright not like Diddy and think that
I
he
think it's a mixture
he
of
has
everything.
it coming for him?
I think there's a mixture of everything. I think there's a dislike with certain people for Diddy because there are some people that kind of feel like Diddy had something to do with the Pac murder, or there's people that just plainly just don't like Diddy. And then there's been stories that other artists that have given on counts of Diddy, it kind of changes the perception. But then we're in the internet era heavily on this. You
Hmm.
know, when you could have somebody that just gives allegations or make up a story, and that will travel further than what the truth is. Like, for example, there's a new allegation or a lawsuit or a civil suit out where it's naming Odell Beckham and Drewski as part of a rape thing with Diddy. And the story is kind of ridiculous. And one of the key things that I like that Drewski said, he was like, "Man, in 2018, I wasn't even famous. I was staying with my mom. Like, where I didn't know these people. Like, where is this coming from?" But people will run with that and be like, "Yeah, see, I knew where they were smoking fire with him and Diddy and all this stuff." He's like, a lot of things that people have hated Diddy for around this trial, outside of the video with Cassie, because we can't ignore
I
that
was
shit.
gonna say that's it. Yeah.
It's people forming opinions based on stories they don't even know if it's true or not. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, and the hate travels way more than the truth. And the internet era could really make somebody uncool. It really could make somebody uncool. Like we said, we seen Meek beat a punching bag a few times, whether it was the beef with him and Drake, then him redeeming himself, and now you throw him in a fabricated story, and now all of a sudden you're questioning this man's sexuality, and he's the punching bag and stuff. Now Meek may do say some corny shit on X and may making a fool of himself in that sense, but he hasn't done anything to really make us hate him.
Exactly.
You know?
I
So
agree.
it's like,
Going back to the super chat says because Kelly was the face of his music, Puff wasn't. Puff
what?
was the face of his
Oh,
music. Puff
yeah,
was the face of
definitely
Bad
was.
Boy. If we're being
What? He's a walking billboard for himself. What?
honest,
That's crazy.
Diddy is the face of Bad Boy, man. And really, man, if we want to talk about New York hip hop and getting New York hip hop on the radio, I mean, I know RZA, feels the other way about it because yes, New York radio did shit on Wu Tang, and they never should have done that. But from a national standpoint, Diddy has a lot to do with New York hip hop getting on national radio.
Yeah,
He
it's
does.
and I think this comes into a conversation where people need to separate the artist from the personal. If we want to just enjoy the music, let's enjoy the music for what it is. But when you want to bring the personal into it for certain people, then treat it as such then. But people tend to do that for people who they like most. They'll make excuses why they'll listen to this person and they'll feel whatever, as opposed to people they dislike. It's just, oh, see, that's the reason to support further why I don't like this person. So it's like they pick and
Fam,
choose who they want to give that favor to.
you went to FAMU.
Yes, sir.
Um, did you cross anything?
No, I didn't.
Okay. I didn't cross anything at state either. I was in the band, so technically, I guess I crossed the band, but I didn't, do all the extra
Hey,
cross within the
that's
band,
the
all
application process
that.
of
Anyway,
itself. Yeah.
right, right. So, what I was asking that for is, what are your thoughts on Diddy telling the band to go get that cheesecake?
Oh, I remember seeing that as a jit, and I was like, man, this is some sucker shit.
You
I was like,
don't
boy,
think that was
like,
some hazing
I
shit?
looked at that as Lil Boying. You know what I'm saying? I looked at it as them Lil Boying. That was unnecessary shit. And now when I hear the band members talk about it, it just reinforces what I thought from day one. But I guess it was good for TV then. But for me, it was ridicule. It set them up for ridicule because now you're a rap group and you're a rappers, and
Yeah,
now we've seen it with Ness and battles for a long time. They keep on using that in punchlines and battles. Oh, walking for cheesecake for puff, blah, blah, blah. Like, if you want them to have the credibility as rappers, you doing stuff like that, you kill their credibility having them do clown shit for you. So Diddy wasn't the best person. And people have many stories about Diddy. I think now ciphering about what's true and what's not. Because I think we all could say that Diddy, R. Kelly, or something probably did some fucked up shit. But the things that were convicted of is not the stories of the fucked up shit that are happening. People will throw up, well, oh, he married Aaliyah, or what about the alleged sex tape that he had with the girl? Well, that alleged sex tape he was found guilty. I mean, he was found innocent of. Whether we know it's him and we seen the video,
yeah,
blah blah blah, we know he was found innocent from that. They can't retry him for that. As far as the stuff with Aaliyah, that's not what he's convicted of. So when we're talking about the actual things he's convicted of, what was placed in front of him for him to be convicted of that. So I can see how people could be torn on that. Just like the Tory case, we don't know what really happened. We just know Meg got on there and said he shot me. And I said this before, when reporting
he
about
damn
the
near
ASAP
confirmed
stuff.
it.
Usually when you have somebody who's a victim and there's a gun involved and somebody's shot or it's pointed towards them and it was attempted, that person lived to tell the story, there's only so many times I've seen a suspect get off. You
Matt Max
know,
to the super chat says, no, he is not. That's Mace and Big. That's Mace and Big. We ain't like Diddy as an artist. We love Kels as one. Well, you know what? We hadn't talked about the ASAP thing. Like, how do you? Because I know you did make that statement in one of our shows. Like, it's very difficult to get off on that person, who was actually shot, able to
he
live to tell that you shot them. How do you think this? How do you think ASAP was able to get out of this, or how did he get out of this?
because Relly wasn't shot.
Mm.
And there was inconsistencies in the story.
Mm, mm,
I think his credibility was killed with him testifying. And that's the matter. That's the really difference of this. He wasn't really shot.
mm.
People make their statement of thinking if Meg was shot in the foot or not. We know something happened to the foot. We don't know if it was broken glass. I know there's stuff about whether it was bullet fragments or whatever, but the fact of the nature is we have that. So whether it was true or not, it automatically painted a perception. When people see that, they're debating if she was really shot in the foot or not. But like I said, usually when a victim is there to tell the story, the person usually don't get off. But in ASAP's case, that was different. He wasn't really, he didn't get shot.
Yeah,
So now you have to think about it. Now the argument became, was the firearm that they said were really a firearm, or was it the prop as, his lawyer and him were arguing. And really, when it played out, this guy, he played himself. He tried it. That was the difference of that. As opposed to where there's smoke, there's fire with R. Kelly, or where there's smoke, there's fire with Diddy, because their past hasn't been really squeaky clean.
Yeah.
There's been stories, have been stuff like that. But like I said, it's been a lot of people in this day and age where it's like people are being found guilty by the court of public opinion more so in the court of law, because I've seen a lot of cases, but when I look at the facts, I still be wondering how the hell did they get convicted? Because where was the facts? It's like there's been a lot of opinions, there's a lot of like civil suits, there's a lot of stories that come out, but when you really look at the facts of the matters that surround cases, it'd be a lot of bullshit, man.
You know, there's like multiple Diddy documentaries on damn near every streaming platform possible. And I've watched all of them, for research purposes. We got to do shows and everything. And, and I'm not even going to lie. Like, I don't want to say they're entertaining, but it's interesting to hear, people speaking out that didn't speak out before. Some of them did, but now getting a major platform to say some of these things that we used to just see on Vlad. You know what I mean? Saying all that to say, all the documentaries that I've seen, it doesn't really look like they have anything that's damning that is going to put Diddy away for a long time, like they're building this up to be. And unless there's something that they're saving for trial or something, I don't really see what what they're going to lock Diddy up for. I mean, seems like that a lot of the testimonies are just he's a bad person, or he engages in these freak offs and things of that nature. But it's going to be very tough to prove that he is out here soliciting sex.
Yeah, I mean, you have a Rico, and he's the only guy that's been arrested so far.
Never seen that.
So we're seeing a bunch of stuff, but we have yet to see stuff that are damning into the actual things he's charged with. We see the civil suits, we see the stories, we see people doing interviews, but that has nothing to do with the criminal case. So that's what I'm saying. We've seen the Cassie video, but they can't charge him with that, of that assault that happened on that video.
Yeah, the Cassie video is the most damaging thing we have.
Yeah, basically how I'm looking at this Diddy stuff, because we don't know if he did things or if he not. That trial will tell, right? So I'm not here to defend, but I'm here to look at the facts of the matter. And he's basically being guilty in a court of public opinion in that video with Cassie. That's what it seems like.
Why do you think he didn't get bail in this situation?
Victim of being a celebrity. They look at his money and power, and they leverage that as a reason not to let him out. They think, oh, he has the resources and all this stuff. And, and he does. But if a man is surrendering his passport, he's doing all this type of stuff. Diddy is a high profile guy. I don't see him sneaking out the country and going to do nothing. Let's be real. But I feel like he should have got a bail. Yeah. I do. I've seen people that get off on bail for doing way worse. I'm just looking at that Southern University student that just was arrested for manslaughter for hazing on that, on that line. And that guy is walking out on bail. Somebody died in that situation.
That's crazy, right?
So it's like, of course, I guess it's handled state by state and stuff like that. But I just look at things that happen that's been way worse. I mean, and people got out on bail. George Zimmerman shot and killed Trayvon Martin. He was able to get out on bail. I mean, he revoked it doing some dumb shit, but he was able to get out. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm looking at these type of things and seeing what it's done to the black celebrities. And it's kind of crazy. And like I said, I'm not here to defend who did what or who did what, but it's like, if you guys are going to nail somebody, man, at least present the facts and do it. But like this being guilty in a court of public opinion and, the documentaries that people are doing and stuff like that, man, that's not the way, bro. Let's present it in court. And if you have the facts, you do that. But I've seen a lot of unjust.
I mean, it takes resources to put together documentaries. And unfortunately, this whole process of every streaming platform having a Diddy documentary, it's obviously getting them ratings. It's obviously money making for them, and it's worth them actually investing the time, effort, and resources into making multiple volumes of these documentaries for every streaming platform. And it's crazy. Yeah, R. Kelly did have an individual Rico as well. Yeah, these are very unique circumstances.
I've never seen it. What I'm saying is like, man, if y'all gonna do this stuff, like if you come for the king, like, and I say this like as a figure of speech. When you come for a king, make sure you have your ducks in order. And I'm not seeing that be done. I'm seeing a lot of people be found guilty in a court of public opinion more so than the actual facts of the matter surrounding the case. There's guys that are being charged with things that they're not technically on paper or on the book supposed to be charged for because it's beyond the statute of limitations. But with all like the public opinion and the documentaries, whatever, it's like they're retroactively charging people with things they're really not supposed. Well, finding them guilty of things they're actually not on trial for at this moment.
Exactly.
So it's weird, man. It's like, and I don't see, the Me Too movement for me. I felt like benefited uh the white men more than it did for the black people because I've seen white individuals that were found on these during the Me Too movements that didn't get the same treatment as these black celebs. I'm just gonna keep it a stack. I don't see them talking about um what's the name? What was the guy? He's an actor. He's an older actor.
Older,
Um
you're
uh
not
he played
you're
in
not talking
horrible
actor,
bosses.
are you? You're not talking about
There's an actor, and I forgot.
so,
He's a well-known. He's an older actor, white
uh,
actor.
oh, you're
Uh,
talking about Kevin Spacey?
Kevin Spacey, right? Where's the outrage for Kevin Spacey as it was for Diddy? You know, even Harvey Weinstein was talked about to a certain extent, but
It feels like when they got Harvey Weinstein, the Me Too movement went away. Like when they got R. Kelly and Harvey Weinstein, it's like, up, mission complete. It's like you would think that for an initiative like Me Too, this is something that's ongoing, right? Like the problem, I'm sure, isn't solved. You know what I mean? Like, but it
mhm.
seems like once these two guys got knocked off the block, it's like, okay, well, mission complete. On to the next
Yeah,
agenda.
I've seen it work wonders for them going against black men, but like that those white celebs that was found that, for example, there was a guy he played on that 70s show.
Yeah.
He was eating this rape type thing ring that was going on. I don't really know all the details, but it was like a rape type thing with this cult with the Scientology school of Scientology and stuff like that. He was convicted, but you didn't see that plastered everywhere. Every day there's another Diddy thing or whatever. We have a guy that's actually was raping multiple people, and we don't see it plastered on everywhere. And this guy was on a syndicated national show every day as a sitcom.
And his castmates actually sent in letters to the judge on his behalf to
That's and Melon
lighten
Kunis.
the
Melon
sentence.
Kunis, yeah.
Yeah, and that's not the same thing as somebody listening to somebody's music, by the way. But
Yeah.
again,
It's
it's
like,
a very interesting dynamic.
yeah, I see when there's one of ours that's even being accused, how even our own people turn against them faster when the thoughts when the stuff is brought out as opposed to like in the attention more so than it is of those those other people that are non-black. Even when I look at the Jay-Z stuff, right? Jay-Z was accused of raping a 13-year-old in that stuff with Diddy, and all that stuff happens and transpires. I see how quick our own people was even out of their just dislike for Jay from that many reasons, whatever you want to name. I seen people quickly turn against him and all of a sudden start trying to piece things together. Oh, well, he got with Beyonce when she was 19 and all this stuff. So if he had known her, like I've seen people really trying to make this guy, and I'm just like, bro, we do it to ourselves. And you're not even seeing a play from a mile away. It's just kind of crazy. But at the end of the day, it's just like I'm just calling a spade for a spade. I'm not supporting any of these dudes because at the end of the day, we don't know what really happened. But you guys pay attention, man. Pay attention to what's going
We
on.
gotta let the we got to let the judicial system, take its course on this situation. Like we said on ASAP Rocky, like we were sitting there like, okay, well, we got to see how this whole thing transpires. And it seems like when it comes to Diddy, I don't see how he's going to get any kind of fair trial with this level of media. Like you thought the OJ Simpson trial was wild, man. Like there's so many outlets that this trial is going to be broadcasted through, and two, like I can't imagine the madness and the commentary that is going to take place while this trial is going on for the people who were former Bad Boy associates, bodyguards. Like this thing is going to be madness. I don't see how this man's going to be able to get anywhere near a fair trial. They're going to be able to ask any jurors if they're not tainted. Like how? This shit is everywhere.
Yep. So, like I said, I don't think this guy is completely innocent with the things he did. You know what I'm saying? I don't, but we don't know. And that's the thing. I don't think he's squeaky clean, but I think a lot of these stories are fabricated, what's coming out in these civil suits, because they're starting to name people in the timelines not adding up. Some of those people, like the Drewski shit, like, I think they're just now, it's like, damn, are you guys just ciphering through pictures in the last years? But, oh, he was next to Diddy. He might as well, and creating stories like this shit is weird, man. It's like, I don't understand what's going on. So it's like, man, and just if this is happening on a celebrity level, just think about just your regular everyday people who's like being done wrong in the justice system, man. So
Exactly.
it's just like, it's just crazy how it works. And even when we're talking about those lower levels of a non-celebrity, it's still unjust being done to people of my hue. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's just like it happens from the large level to this level. No matter if you a person in a suit or a person of broke, you're still a nigga.
Yeah.
Never
And
forget in their eyes. You know what I'm saying?
now I know that, not to cut you off, I know that R. Kelly said he has 25 albums that he's written in prison. Do you think that he is exaggerating, or you think that that's legit?
That's crazy for a dude that said he couldn't read or write. That's number one. But we know he pinned things for people, but that's kind of crazy. People said he was illiterate. That's the first
He's
thing
got
that
his tape
stood out to me.
recorder in there or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Secondly, yeah, I think it's kind of exaggerated, but I think he probably has a great deal of music, that he's done. He had a lot of time to sit on it, man. When you're in between those four walls or you're in that jail cell, all you got is time.
Yeah.
Wasted time.
Yeah.
Pac said
It's
itself.
really sad. Yeah.
Pac said
It's like,
itself, man. He was like, never appreciate the precious time these bitch niggas is wasting, intentions institutionalized. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's so
yeah.
much wasted time there that I feel it's crazy and irresponsible for fans. Oh, they're gonna get out, man. This album gonna be banging or blah blah blah. Man, jail changes people, bro. I know
Mhm.
people that's been to prison. I know people that's been to jail. The last thing you're thinking about is like that shit. It changes
Yeah.
people, bro.
Yeah.
Mentally, psychological. I don't know if anybody's been incarcerated or know what that feels like. I haven't been incarcerated, but I know people who have. And the last thing you're thinking about is drawing creativity. Some people have been able to do it, but really, it could really like uh kill your creativity and kill
That's what
against.
Pac said. Pac
You
said
know?
it killed his creativity, man. I mean, he wasn't in there like super long, but as somebody who was a recording artist, who was very creative and doing film and all that, for that time period that he was in there, he was like, "Yeah, man, the creativity is killed, man. Like, no,
So
this is
hip
not.
hop
What do
on
you know? What I'm saying? This is not the
trial.
place to be."
Yeah, man. I'm tired
But
of seeing hip hop on trial. What are you
yeah,
saying, Mike?
this Diddy one's a big one, man. What do you think is going to happen? Look. Let me go ahead and say it right now. It is what, March 10th, 2025. I don't think I don't think Diddy's going to do jail time. Do you think he's going to do jail time? And if he doesn't, how do you think it's going to play out with him as a free man?
Good question. Because there's gonna be a lot of people that's gonna be backtracking some shit. Because I know the floodgates is open. Everybody has a joke about Diddy. Everybody's doing interviews, and they feel like this guy locked up now. I can come
Yeah,
out and do my interviews, and everybody speak about what they seen or saw. And one thing that interests me about a lot of these people that are interviews, Gene Dill and all these guys, is like, how you guys have so many accounts and stories of stuff as y'all seen, and y'all never stepped in and intervened in nothing. You are just as much as accomplished as you are as a person you're accused. Stood by
where
and
are the
watched all this shit
intervening
transpire.
stories?
Never heard of it. So everybody has on all this stuff. Where were you in this story? Oh, you seen all this? You didn't do nothing? Okay, you enabled this to happen. You're just as worse as the person that is accused of doing these things. But for me, to answer your question, for Diddy, I don't know. I don't know if it's gonna be I don't know if he's gonna get off or I don't know if he is. Right now, they're, FBI, they're, this is the Fed. This is a Fed case, by the way. So I don't, I don't know what information that they're tucking and hasn't revealed to the public. But right now, based on everything from
Yeah.
what I'm seeing, I don't think they have anything because all this stuff is just civil suits, random stories, documentaries, people doing interviews. But the facts of the matter, besides that Cassie video, which he cannot be charged for because it's beyond the statute of limitations, and they already stated that. I don't know what they really got Diddy on.
Yeah.
Just being totally honest, I don't know.
Let's just say everything is everything that we see right now, and he does walk free, after this trial. What do you think that looks like in his musical career and all of the other moving parts in entertainment?
Even if found innocent, I don't think he's gonna have a successful music career. It's gonna be kind of hard for
Yeah,
people to understand that. Even with it's just the reputation damage. You know what I'm saying? I don't
yeah.
honestly, if I was him, I wouldn't even try to still deal with music anymore, man. I've seen so many people turn on you and certain people take certain positions with you. I wouldn't even want to be involved in the entertainment space as a public figure into that sense. I don't know. I
You
don't
think
know.
he'll do an interview?
I wouldn't give anybody the time of day.
I think he would do it on his own platform.
That's
Um,
exactly. I'll control my narrative. I'm not getting you all the time of day because most people that want to do those interviews are the same people that let people get on their platform and tell whatever they said that was against them, whatever. I wouldn't sit down with nobody if I was him. I'll create my own narrative and have that out in the way I want it to be.
has there been a media outlet that has been objective when it comes to these things that Diddy's been going through? Like, has there anybody that he could honestly say, "Yo, you know what? Such and such gave me a fair shot. I'm gonna give them an interview."
Um, Not from what I'm seeing in our culture, no. As far as
Yeah,
major news outlets, they just report the news, and they don't really take a position. But I feel like no, not in our culture. There has been anything that's been, you know, objectively looked at when it comes to this. Now there's some people that have spoke out, but not actual platforms. I feel like, like I said, when any hate train, people join along on that. People pick their sides or, I don't know. So it's like,
they both pushed him to the wayside. Even.
yeah, I mean, because like I said, the media is tricky now because like I've seen even the biggest of platforms have a position that may be different, and then when something happens, they kind of change their tune. So it's like I don't think nobody is being, objective when it comes into this matter. All I can do is be objective when it comes down to these things because I don't have a dog in this fight. I'm not the biggest Diddy
Right.
fan. I wasn't the president of the Tory fan club. You know what I'm saying? I just want
I
people to
mean,
get a fair
even
ride.
if you are, right? I mean, you just kind of got to look at things for what they are. You know what I'm saying? And you
Easy.
got to, and again, it's the difference between being a super fan or a super hater if you're not able to sit there and look objectively and say, okay, well, this is what's on the table and this is what's not. You know what I mean? And from what I see, I mean, the R. Kelly thing, I mean, I already kind of knew how that was going to play out. Even if they did have him like an individual RICO, it didn't look great that he was um, keeping these young ladies away from their families. And you know what I'm saying? And you had the whole underage allegation, all of those. It was a lot going on there. You know what I'm saying? And the living conditions, having these live-in girlfriends and all that stuff, that's a bad look. I don't see any of those things that would be, holding someone against their will and things that could even be viewed in that light when it comes to this individual case. Now, I could be missing something. And if I am, you know what I mean, I'm missing that and that could be brought to light. And I'll be like, you know what, I was wrong, yada, yada. But this ain't got nothing to do with being a fan or a hater. You know what I'm saying? It's just looking at the
Man,
situation
man,
for
it's
what
like
it is.
I can't defend these guys. I can't. But what I
I don't know.
can do is look. Yeah, exactly. But like, I mean, there's some things you can look at and be like, man, this is bullshit. And you have
Right.
the right to publicly speak on that and give your opinion. But when I'm looking at, the case of these two, it's just like I don't know what to believe. I don't know what's not, but I can know some things that I see and have read that's some bullshit. But I also know you guys are not squeaky clean, so it could be a possibility you did do some of this shit. But it's like
Mm-hmm.
we don't know the facts of the matter, and being that it's not being presented in a way that we can actually be like, oh, I can see why you got them on this. We could talk about past stuff that they're not being tried for. Like I said, these dudes have equally possibly did some things that are bad. We seen not even possibly. We seen the video of Diddy beating Cassie, and he apologized. At least R. Kelly still thinks stands by, hey, that wasn't me in that video. But yet and still,
Well, yeah, Diddy apologized when the
yeah,
video came about because
when the
before he
video
was
came
saying
out.
it was bullshit.
And so that killed his credibility because for a minute he was like, oh, I didn't do XYZ. And that video came out, and that's the thing, he's doing that apology video. So it's like, we know these guys are not necessarily good guys, but are we trying them in court? Is what they're being found guilty of is not them being bad guys, or is it the facts of the matter of what you're charging them of?
Well,
He's not being charged with
Christopher Hogan brings up a good point. We do have to understand the law in sex trafficking.
mm-hmm.
And I think that where the disconnect is for me is, you know, yes, he could have been doing those things that he's accused of. I think my roadblock is like, how do you prove that, right? Because usually in those situations, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's usually a sting type of operation going on where you catch a person dead to right actually in the act of those things. After the fact, unless there's some level of a paper trail, and unless he was dumb enough to sit here and document what this money was for or whatever, and those transfers, how exactly do you prove something like that?
Well, I've always been interested in how that sex trafficking stuff go, because an artist I was signing, Diddy, and a part of the band, Chopper, he was charged with sex trafficking some time ago, and he talks about it in his interviews of how he went about that. And I just kind of feel like that law is kind of crazy alone, because like, how many girls wasn't getting flown out by rappers and ballers or whatever, and they know they were about to get it in and get some money thrown to them, sent about their way. You know what I'm saying? That
Exactly.
shit's been happening. Is that considered sex trafficking? Like, I'm still
Exactly.
like, I
Exactly.
don't know. Like I said, if the truth will come out in some way, and if it doesn't, I mean, I hope that it's into the best of what they really did, and not the shit that is like just public opinion and things of that nature. If these guys really did what they're accused of, let them see their day. At the end of the day, I'm not the person you got to answer to.
Yeah, it's true.
But I give my fair opinion on how I see things playing out, and the things that we've known as a fact, and then we have things that are opinions and stories that we don't even know if they're fabricated or true. So, let's look at how this stuff plays out, and then you have your opinion from there. But I'm not taking no side, but I could call out some shit that's bullshit, and there's some things that's been bullshit.
Well said, man. And you know what? When that trial comes up, man, there's going to be a lot of commentary on this thing, man. And I don't know, man. I can't even begin to imagine how much of a circus this whole trial and this experience is going to be, because we've never seen anything like this. I'll liken this back to the O.J. Simpson trial, and this was like over 30 years ago. Over 30 years ago now. We only had like a few outlets to even get our news and updates from. This right here, there's channels everywhere. There's social media everywhere. There's cameras everywhere. There's streaming platforms that are already doing these documentaries. I can't imagine the circus this trial is going to
Yeah, you got podcasts, you got the social media blogs or whatever you want to call them these days. Everything's covered. There's just so much going on around it. I don't know how you get a fair jury, because even white people know who Diddy is.
be. Exactly.
Every-
How?
It's like, people know who Puff Daddy. Oh, Puff Daddy. It's like similar to like the Snoop effect. Snoop
What
was
kind
on
of
trial.
questions are they even going to ask these jurors? Like, what kind of to pick a jury? What kind of questions are they even going to be able to ask them to see if they're going to be fair jurors?
I don't know, man. It's so easy. I really
But
don't
again,
know.
I feel like
That's
we
what I'm
can't
saying. This
whatever.
is crazy, man. It's like, yeah. When you reach a certain level, of celebrity, I don't see how you get a fair trial. I mean, that's kind of how I looked at, like, now how I look back. I was younger when, like, the Michael Jackson case. Who doesn't know who Michael Jackson is?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. How did
So
they actually choose their jurors as well? Like, I don't know. Well, before we get out of here, you were
yeah,
telling you sent over a topic about T-Pain saying that Snoop made auto tune cool.
yeah,
He
man.
was talking about sexual seduction, right?
Yeah, he was on a podcast, and he was like, when he first came with the auto tune, and he presented that, um, people were like, he caught a lot of flack. They wasn't really feeling it, but he said Snoop made it cool, when he did the sexual seduction song and all that. And it's like, oh, okay, now it's cool. Now Snoop did it. And then he said it like that. And like, that's how he said that. That's how it was adopted, for it to be cool. When he was doing it, it wasn't cool. Snoop did it, it was cool. And it was like, that's an interesting view on it. I want to look at the interview in a whole, but that clip's been floating around, and I know it's probably not like one of the first times he said it before. There's plenty of interviews when he speak about like him early in the auto tune, how it was perceived, and when Jay did Def auto tune, how it was looked at. And I really think that T-Pain got the bad end of that. When it comes to the auto tune stuff, because they make him like the poster child of why it was overly used or how it was used terribly when he used it great, and he has proven he could sing without it.
What I
He's not
like
responsible.
about how things went down with the whole auto tune and T-Pain is the fact that I'm not saying that T-Pain was the first to do it. I know Roger Troutman did it. I know, you know what I mean? Because I know when we were talking about Kanye's use of auto tune on the College Dropout was slightly before T-Pain's even, right? But we know that Roger Troutman, we know Teddy Riley and all of them used it. But what I thought was unfair to T-Pain is he kind of took auto tune into a whole nother generation, and it became his sound. It was his way of doing things. So I'm sprung. I'm in love with a stripper. He made it work, and it was his voice, for lack of a better term. And when other people start overusing it watered him down as a brand.
Exactly.
And then when Jay comes with the death of auto tune, which in my personal opinion really didn't stop auto tune, it just stopped T-Pain. And he wasn't even really going at T-Pain, I don't think. He was going at really, let's keep it all the way. He was really going at Ether Boy. He was really going at what's his name? Dude that was going by Ether Boy. Yeah, Ron Browse. He was really going at Ron Browse.
There's so many people that like use auto tune and it was poor. And I think people need to think about like we think about the success of T-Pain and how he became the hook guy and he was on every song, but we're not thinking about that early on. I'm sprung. I'm a Florida boy, so I know what it was like when that dropped. We liked it, but the outside people was like, man, what the hell is this? Because first of all, the subject what he's speaking about made him look like a simp to people. And then second of all, it's auto-tune. So they're like, man, where the hell is this? Shit's terrible. So I remember what people were saying about T-Pain early on and then what came to be. So I get what he's saying. I don't know if it was necessarily Snoop, in my opinion, that made it cool for auto-tune and that. I just think the amount of hits he produced, T-Pain produced, they just kind of like was like, all right, I'm into it. But that's his perspective,
Yeah, you're right. And he lived it. So that's his perspective as a fan and as a person I was kind of in radio then, but it was one of those things where it was like you said, I'm sprung with something different. We're like, okay, that's different. And when he came with I'm in love with a stripper, it's like, okay, well, he's for real. And like you said, he just kept coming with hits and it was like, okay, he's dope. And we accepted the fact that that was his sound, that was his voice. And I think that Jay was trying to shut down Ron Browse without calling out his name, as he shouldn't, you know what I mean? Because that gives Ron Browse even more of a platform. He was calling out people who weren't utilizing auto-tune in a good way, in a creative way. And I thought Ron Browse fits that description because jumping out the window's whack. It is what it is.
I mean, I don't know if it was just Ron Browse. We got to remember how.
It was a lot of people, not just Ron Browse. But I think Ron Browse was Jay's target because he was always bragging about making ether. And Jay's a competitor. Let's keep it real.
Yeah,
and he was making records with Jim Jones and stuff. So I think he became a target. And I think
even though Jay could say, yeah, we're overlapping. I don't know what's going on. It's doing what it was doing the other day. But yeah, but if you make a song called even though it may not have been directed towards T-Pain, and he even said in the song, you T-Paining too much. But if you make a song called Auto-Tune and you have somebody that is kind of like making his bread and butter off using this, you're also saying death to his stuff too. So I can see how T-Pain could take that a certain way, even though he's saying you guys T-Paining too much. You guys need to find something else. In a way, it's still kind of shitting on what he's doing too, because if it's death for that, then it's like, I know he wasn't talking about me, but that's death to what I do. Like, so it's not socially acceptable now. So I get it.
I don't think T-Pain should have owned that though. You know what I'm saying? Like, because he went out there and was kind of owning it, and it's like, all right, well, I think T-Pain should have taken the notion that like, yo, he's not talking about me. You know what I'm saying? But he went out there, owned it, and it kind of, it was a ricochet that, inadvertently took him down, but it elevated everybody else who was using auto tune.
Yeah, I mean,
Unfortunate.
and like I said, man, like there's so many bad. If we really want to go back and look at that era, there's a lot of bad songs that was done with autotune. I remember one in
Mhm.
particular, and shout out to him as being a great producer behind a lot of things right now. But I remember Young Berg had a joint that "Give You the Business" record. The autotune on that, oh my god,
Yeah, people
you
are
know,
abusing auto tune, and when you
people
look back
it was
on it,
being
it looks
abused
like
so
Jay was
bad.
coming at T Pain. But yeah, you're right. Like at that time period, people saw what T Pain was doing, and everybody took part in it. And something had to be said. It did cut down on people who really didn't use auto tune like that from using it. But then you have people like Future who were able to make a career after it, but still. Yeah, I think the T Pain became an innocent bystander, unfortunately, man. And I
Yeah,
don't
man,
think he should have quit.
and
I
a
mean,
lot of
not
people
quit, but you know what I mean? I
understand.
think he should have kept doubling down on it.
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand how talented T Pain really is. Because not only could he sing without that, T Pain is a great songwriter and producer as well.
Yeah.
And I don't think T Pain get enough credit for how talented he is. People want to look at it like, oh, it's a fad, it was an error. No, T Pain is really a talented guy.
Yeah.
He really
For sure.
is. He has a nice pen game too. And I think T Pain gets lumped in that being the hook guy stuff, but he has projects that were pretty good, and he's a good songwriter, and he has produced some joints, and you
He's a
know
hit maker too.
yeah, he's a hit maker, bro. Like I said, making a hit is not easy. And so when I look at T Pain, and if anybody has an opinion about it, I want to say, hey, have you listened to T Pain album? Because Rapper Turn Single was pretty good. Epiphany was pretty good. You
Nah,
know,
Pain's
these,
dope.
yeah. So it's like, let's get out of just trying to put somebody in the box if you ain't really listen to the music. And that's why I always say, man, when people have something negative to say, I'm always gonna go back. Did you listen to the music for you to have
His
the
feature
opinion?
game was crazy too. His
Because
hook
it's,
game was
it's
crazy.
crazy. You
I like
know,
my favorite, before we get out of here, my favorite T Pain hook is "She Got It." I forgot the name of the group, but
Oh,
they
that
were
was
from
Two Guns. He was from Tampa.
yeah, that's it. Yep.
Yeah,
That
two.
hook was crazy. I know she got it because she looking at me like she want
Yeah.
it, want
See,
it.
T Pain had joints that I liked that wasn't even big singles. Like he
Yeah,
had
yeah.
joints from Rapper Turn Singer that was dope. Like he had Studio. I think they did release that as a single later on with the remix with Wayne. Man, he had so many joints on there. Oh my god, the slow records on that on Rapper Turn Singer was dope. Man, when I come back to me, I'm gonna put it up. But man,
Buy
there's
you a
so many joints on
glass.
there. Blow Your Mind was on there. That was the shit. Blow Your Mind was on the first album.
Yeah.
Man, yeah. Being from
All
Florida
the
and knowing,
T-Pain, Akon, all of that,
I
man.
actually think to me, and shout out to Akon, I interviewed him and everything, but I really think T Pain had more music for the culture as opposed to Akon. Akon did I'm locked up and he did stuff, but when you really look at Akon's overall music, it doesn't really appeal to us and the culture as much as T Pain's music did for
Oh,
me.
no.
You know,
Yeah, I think Akon was able to do his global thing, and then he
yeah,
had Lady
he's
Gaga for
global.
Pop World and all that stuff, and then he had T-Pain for, the hip hop and R&B. And T-Pain really, really made his mark, man. Like, you can't tell the story of that era without talking about T-Pain.
Yeah, and T Pain, he's a talented hybrid because T Pain came from a rap group. He was in the Nappy Heads.
Yeah,
If you're from Florida, you're from down south, Robbery. When they flipped the Kaya joint and did Robbery, and then T Pain, he showed multiple displays of being able to rap.
yeah.
Um, and so like,
Even
there's
on
a
even
famous
on Chris
song.
Brown's Kiss Kiss, man, like, his feature on there was dope.
I mean, even he had this song. If you're in the South, you probably know this record. T Pain had a record called "Put It Down." It was on the Epiphany soundtrack. Joint was dope.
Yeah,
So he's shown that he could rap. He's shown that he could sing. He could sing live without auto tune. He just displayed that recently on the Masked Singer. Like last 2 years ago or whatever. Like he's shown multiple times he could sing without it. This guy is
yeah,
a
Tiny
talented
Desk, all that. And I hate that he's gotten to this point where he's having to prove to people that he can sing, man. Like it shouldn't have. He
yeah,
got
man.
robbed of his glory, man. And
Yeah.
I hate the fact that a lot of people that he made hits for and with when he was going through that time where, I guess, people weren't trying to work with him like that, that they didn't return the favor, man. It's really unfortunate to see.
Yeah, he was it was out with him and with Future. Now
Yep.
all of a sudden, Future was all over the Khaled albums. It used to be T-Pain. That's the one that's coming with the anthems, and then it was out though and with them. But I have my thoughts about how Khaled moved with that whole thing too, because I feel like Ace Hood caught a bad end of that stick too.
Yeah.
And that's what happens when you kind of have the DJ or whatever, the guy that's running stuff that want to be bigger than the artist, that they feel like they're artists themselves. But that's for
All
another
in the
conversation.
videos.
Yeah, that's another
Dan.
conversation. But for me, T Pain, he's dope, and he could still make dope joints too. He just had a joint with was it Kalani that was popping like last year, the year
Oh
before?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like T Pain could
Listen,
still
man, when you're a great
make it.
songwriter, you're just a great songwriter. Like I said, he's
Yeah,
a hit maker. It's not an easy thing to make a hit. He knows how to make a hit.
he could still do it now.
Yeah.
You
But
know,
again, it's like this is where people get this whole notion of plant, non-plant from, because it feels like when the industry's done with you, it's like your talents don't exist anymore. We know, put in the right position, T-Pain could go out there and have a hit run right now because he has the talent to do so. He's proven that over time. And it just feels like something happened where he got pushed out the league, if you will.
and I feel like T Pain understands the industry.
Yeah.
He understands the industry, and he also knows how to uh make a hit. Like I said, this man Pin Game, like I'll always put my money on T Pain if he wants to get back into it and make a hit. I'll always put my money on T Pain because not only did he show it from the R&B hip hop side, he went dipped over there in EDM and was doing things over there too. So like, T Pain doesn't get a lot of credit, man, but he's a real talented artist in my opinion. And
For
I
sure.
disagree with anybody else who don't agree with that. That's cool, but T
Yeah.
Pain,
I think we all agree on the fact that T-Pain is extremely talented.
extremely.
And we need more people like him.
Yeah,
Hit
man.
like and subscribe,
T-Pain.
everybody, man. This has been a great conversation, man. Like, I thought we didn't have a lot to talk about today, but we obviously did.
Hey man, this is what shows you guys, man. When we talk hip hop, there's so many broad scopes of just always delving into hot takes and whatever's trending at the time, man. There's so many
Yeah.
conversations to have within hip hop, man.
Let's have a real conversation, man.
yeah, man. You guys just gotta be open to the narratives. I know people have their opinions, have their whatever, but man, listen. Really listen. Listen to the music and listen to the commentary around it, and you'll see who's really for the culture and who's not.
Yes, sir. Well said. Well, hit like, subscribe, comment, all of those things, man. And yeah, we'll see y'all next week, man. Great conversation, bro. All right, man. Good stuff.